Chapter 2841. Ji Tianqing was very depressed. He originally wanted to kill the black-robed Divine Lord and eliminate the root of the problem. But at the critical moment, the black-robed Divine Lord used his trump card and escaped. Ji Tianqing could only take back the burial of Heaven's sword and muttered to himself, "Sigh. If I had already broken through to the Divine Lord realm, this person wouldn't have been able to escape." Indeed, if he reached the Divine Lord realm, he could borrow the power of the world to instantly seal a radius of tens of thousands of miles. No matter how capable the black-robed Divine Lord was, he wouldn't be able to escape this world. He would definitely be caught and killed. The Divine Lord realm was an even more unfathomable level than the celestial God realm. It could control heaven and earth and many divine Tao laws, quickly forming a law domain. In his own domain, he was an invincible god, and his combat strength would skyrocket. At this moment, Ji Tianqing really wanted to return to the Divine Tower to cultivate in seclusion and break through to the Divine Lord realm as soon as possible. However, he also knew that this idea was unrealistic. The Qi family's matter hadn't been resolved yet, so he couldn't go into seclusion for the time being. Moreover, what happened tonight was only the beginning of the storm. Next, there would definitely be an even more intense storm coming. The black-robed Divine Lord was an expert of the Blood Sword sect. First, he failed to seize the profound light cave, and then suffered such a huge loss under his sword. How could he let it go? Even if one used their toes to think, they would definitely retaliate even more fiercely. Ji Tianqing hurriedly suppressed the distracting thoughts in his heart and began to search the battlefield. After a while, he found more than a dozen interspatial rings and hundreds of divine spark fragments. One of the rings actually belonged to the black-robed Divine Lord. After all, the black-robed Divine Lord wore the interspatial ring on his left hand. The left side of his body had been chopped into pieces. After putting away these things, Ji Tianqing didn't go to the Beast Valley and rushed back to Qingshan City as fast as possible. He guessed that the Qi family should have received the news and knew what happened in the Beast Valley. It was early in the morning, so the Qi family must have dealt with this matter overnight. Ji Tianqing's guess was right. Half an hour after the chaos in the Beast Valley, several guard captains sent a message and reported the news to the Qi family. The people who received the news were the three deacons of the Qi family. The person at the helm of the Qi clan was, of course, the patriarch Qi Tianlong. The person with the second highest status was naturally the young lord Qi Huangji. Below them were the 5 deacons. Among them, the grand deacon, the second deacon, and the 5th deacon were Qi Tianlong's brothers. The 3rd deacon and the 4th deacon had been loyal to the Qi clan for many years. Coincidentally, the chief deacon and the 2nd deacon were both in the profound light cave, overseeing the general situation there. The 3rd deacon, 4th deacon, and 5th deacon were left behind to guard the Qi residence. 3rd deacon Jin Zhong and 4th deacon Jiao, and were old officials who had been loyal to the Qi family for hundreds of years. The 2 of them were rather old, both of them had white hair. Therefore, the 2 of them had always been prudent and conservative. He did not seek merit, but he sought not to make any mistakes. As for the 5th deacon Qi Tianhe, he was Qi Tianlong's cousin. Qi Tianhe was ranked last and did not have much power. Normally, he didn't pay much attention to the family business and career. The Qi clan's impression of him was that he was in secluded cultivation, greedy for pleasure, and indulging in women. After the 3 deacons received the news, they gathered the backbone of the Qi clan and discussed countermeasures in the conference hall. The resplendent meeting hall was brightly lit. More than 20 of the Qi clan's backbone stood neatly in the hall, their expressions solemn and heavy. The 3 deacons sat at the head of the table, frowning in contemplation. Jin Zhong and Jiaowen were full of worries and had been discussing countermeasures with the Qi clan's backbone. Qi Tianhe sat at the head of the table, but he did not speak much and had an indifferent attitude. The Qi clan's backbone had long been used to his style, and did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. In any case, Qi Tianhe was the patriarch's cousin and had a noble status. Even if he did not do anything and did not do anything, the patriarch should discipline him. The Qi clan's backbone and the 2 deacons did not have the qualifications to say anything. Jin Zhong, who was wearing a purple robe, was a tall and sturdy old man with white eyebrows and white hair. He had a dignified square face, and his eyes were bright and full of vigor. He was awe-inspiring without being angry. Looking at the Qi clan's backbone in the hall, he said in a low voice, "Just now, we received a secret report from the mythical Beast Valley in the south of the city. A group of people in black attacked the mythical Beast Valley in the middle of the night, killing over 100 guards and destroying the entire mythical Beast Valley. Over 100 beasts and mythical beasts took advantage of the chaos and escaped. There were only 64 guards left in the mythical Beast Valley, and they did their best to capture 24 mythical beasts." After Jin Zhong finished speaking, Jiawen took over the conversation. He was a skinny old man with a dark face. His eyes were deep and sharp. "I have sent out 30 guards to form a temporary investigation team and go to the mythical Beast Valley to investigate the situation and treat the wounded. But the question is, where did those people in black come from? Why did they destroy the mythical Beast Valley? How are we going to catch up with the hundreds of mythical beasts that have escaped? The reason why I've gathered everyone here is to brainstorm. I hope that everyone can come up with a solution." After the two deacons finished speaking, the more than 20 backbone members in the hall began to whisper to each other. "How hateful! Who attacked the mythical Beast Valley? For over 100 years, the Qi clan has never been humiliated like this. No matter which force it is, they must pay a painful price. Alas, the family head and the future family head are not here, and this happened. Isn't the mythical Beast Valley protected by all kinds of formations? How did those people in black get in?" Everyone was talking, but no one could give a reasonable suggestion. At this moment, Qi Tianhe, the fifth deacon who had been keeping his head down, suddenly said, "The family head is far away in the Tianfeng County, dealing with the family business. He is already under pressure. Don't inform the family head about what happened tonight in case he is worried. Let's not worry about the origin of those people in black. This matter needs to be investigated slowly, and it will take a long time. Our top priority is to treat the wounded, rebuild the mythical Beast Valley, and find the escaped pets. We have to try our best to recover the losses so that we can explain to the family head when he comes back." The hall, which had been abuzz with discussion, quieted down. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Qi Tianhe. There was a mixture of surprise and astonishment in everyone's eyes. No one expected that Qi Tianhe, who had rarely cared about the family business, would step forward at this time. Moreover, what he said was quite reasonable. Jin Zhong nodded and said solemnly, "Fifth deacon, you are usually obsessed with cultivation and rarely care about the family business. However, you are still very attentive at this critical moment when the family is in danger. I agree with fifth deacon's suggestion." Jiawen hesitated for a moment and nodded in agreement. "So do I," Qi Tianhe nodded and said calmly, "Since both deacons agree, let's do it this way. Let's take action as soon as possible. We will rebuild the mythical Beast Valley and search for the escaped pets." Jin Zhong and Jiawen nodded at the same time and were about to give orders. But right then, a voice came from the door of the hall. "Wait!" Chapter 2842. The sudden voice, which contained a powerful majesty, shocked everyone in the hall. Everyone was puzzled and turned to look at the door. Who was so bold? Who dared to barge into the meeting hall and interrupt everyone's discussion? Immediately, under everyone's gaze, a handsome young man in a white robe stepped into the hall. After seeing this person's face, the three deacons and many of the backbones were stunned. Then there were whispers in the crowd. "It's the master? Why is young Master Tianqing back? Didn't he follow the young master to carry out a mission? Strange, the master is back. Why didn't the young master come back?" Everyone recognized that it was the master of the Qi family, young Master Tianqing. More than 20 backbones, including the three deacons at the head, all bowed to salute. "Greetings, Lord Consecrator." Although Ji Tianqing was hired by the Qi family as an external aide, but in terms of status he was second only to the family master and the young master, and his status was higher than the deacons. Qi Tianlong and his son were not present, so he was the person with the highest status. While everyone was saluting, Ji Tianqing walked through the crowd and walked to the head. The three deacons quickly stepped aside and stood aside. Ji Tianqing did not stand on ceremony. He sat down and glanced over everyone with his majestic eyes. However, when he glanced at the fifth deacon Qi Tianhe, there was an imperceptible coldness in his eyes. Ji Tianhe still kept his head down with a cold and indifferent posture. He did not react at all. At this time Jin Zhong bowed and asked, "Young Master Tianqing, may I ask why you interrupted us? Are you not satisfied with the result of our discussion? Or do you have other instructions?" Everyone looked at Ji Tianqing waiting for his answer. Ji Tianqing did not beat around the bush and said directly, "I don't want to waste time, so I will say it directly. There is no problem with the result of your discussion. You must rebuild the Valley of Mythical Beasts and search for escaped pets to minimize losses. But, before these two things are carried out, I have a more important matter that must be solved now." As soon as he said that, the atmosphere in the hall seemed to have frozen. Everyone's heart sank, feeling uneasy. Even Ji Tianqing, who had been lowering his head, secretly glanced at Ji Tianqing. Zhaoan cupped his hands in greeting and asked, "Sir Consecrator, may I ask what is so urgent?" Ji Tianqing said expressionlessly, "Eliminate the traitor." Hearing this, everyone was stunned and couldn't help but cry out in surprise. "What? A mole? There's actually a traitor in our Qi clan. How is this possible? What is Lord Consecrator doing? How can we investigate the traitor at this time?" The 20 or so core members all expressed their disbelief and found it hard to accept this matter. Jin Zhong and Zhaoan saluted at the same time and advised, "Consecrated Darren, the matter of the traitor is of great importance. You must be careful with your words and actions." That's right. This matter was related to the Qi clan's reputation, so they couldn't act rashly. They had to wait for the clan leader to return before dealing with it. "Let's deal with the God Beast Valley first." Seeing that everyone was at a loss and trying to persuade them, Ji Tianqing said with a dignified expression, "The God Beast Valley was attacked tonight and suffered heavy losses. It was caused by the traitor. Someone colluded with the enemy and betrayed the defenses of the God Beast Valley. Therefore, the group of black-clothed people easily broke the Divine Beast Valley's defensive array. They rushed into the valley and started a massacre, opening the defensive formation and releasing hundreds of pet beasts. Otherwise, with the defensive strength of the God Beast Valley, how could it have been destroyed and suffered such heavy losses in just a quarter of an hour?" Jin Zhong, Zhaoan, and many core members fell silent and pondered with complicated expressions. They had to admit that Ji Tianqing was right. The God Beast Valley was one of the Qi clan's painstaking efforts, and was worth more than 1 billion divine stones. For more than 200 years, the Qi clan had built the God Beast Valley into an impregnable fortress without any problems. But tonight, the God Beast Valley was attacked and almost turned into ruins. Also, this matter was over in a quarter of an hour. Wasn't this too fast? If someone hadn't leaked the defenses of the God Beast Valley, how could those men in black have been so successful? Thinking of this, everyone accepted Ji Tianqing's explanation. The more than 20 core members whispered to each other and secretly nodded in agreement. However, Jin Zhong and Zhaoan looked at each other and communicated telepathically. They rejected this proposal at the same time. "Master, we believe in your judgment. There is probably a traitor in the Qi clan. If the traitor didn't leak the secrets, the God Beast Valley wouldn't have suffered heavy losses. However, only the Master can deal with the traitor in person. Master, only the Master, the young Master, you, and the 5 deacons have access to the map of the God Beast Valley. It's not that we want to obstruct this matter, nor is it because we are guilty. It's just that this matter is too important. Those who are qualified to be traitors must be dealt with by the Master himself." The 2 deacons objected, but Ji Tianhe remained silent as if this matter had nothing to do with him. Ji Tianqing's face was cold as he said in a dignified tone, "Because this matter is too important, I have to deal with it now. Otherwise, once the traitor escapes from the Qi family by tomorrow, who will be able to catch him?" Jin Zhong and Zhaoan still wanted to refute. Ji Tianqing shouted coldly, "Without the Master and the young Master, who has the most power now? Tell me." The thunderous voice caused the entire hall to tremble. Everyone shrunk their necks. Jin Zhong and Zhaoan could only lower their heads and answer truthfully, "Of course it's you." "Good." Ji Tianqing nodded and shouted coldly again, "I want to deal with the traitor now. Who dares to question me?" The whole hall was silent. No one dared to speak. Ji Tianqing was very satisfied and ordered in a deep voice, "Men, arrest the 5th deacon Qi Tianhe." As his voice fell, everyone raised their heads in unison and looked at him in horror. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Qi Tianhe, who had been lowering his head in silence, also frowned and stared at him gloomily. Even the few guards at the entrance were stunned, not daring to move an inch. "What are you waiting for? Are you deaf?" Ji Tianqing glared at the guards at the door and shouted coldly. The guards' bodies stiffened, and they hurriedly entered the hall and walked towards Qi Tianhe. At this time, Qi Tianhe suddenly sneered and said, "Deacon Tianqing, have you taken the wrong medicine? Are you crazy? I have never worried about the family business and am indifferent to wealth and fame. This is something everyone knows. But you slandered me in front of everyone and claimed that I am the traitor? Ha ha ha. Countless people in the city have heard that Deacon Tianqing is arrogant and domineering. You have been doing whatever you want because you are the young master. I didn't believe it before and was too lazy to care about these trivial matters. But now it seems that not only are you arrogant and domineering, but you are also doing whatever you want. You're simply spouting nonsense, vicious and vicious." End of chapter. Chapter 2843. Qi Tianhe stared at Ji Tianqing with a cold smile on his face. Did everyone see it? This is our Qi family's consecrator. He relied on the family head and young family head's favor and became lawless. In order to prove that he has great power and to show off, he actually slandered me in public. How heartless is he? More than 20 corps members were panicking and discussing. A few guards stopped in their tracks, not knowing if they should arrest Qi Tianhe. Jin Zhong and Jiawen were also anxious, with beads of sweat on their foreheads. Both of them did not expect that when they were still having a discussion, everything was normal. When young Master Tianqing appeared, it immediately turned into this situation. He actually accused Qi Tianhe of being a traitor. To the Qi family, this was undoubtedly a bolt from the blue. Jin Zhong and Jiawen's status was not high enough to handle this matter. Both of them could only plead for mercy and dissuade Ji Tianqing. "Sir Consecrator, you can't just label someone as a traitor." That's right. The fifth deacon's character is obvious to everyone. Moreover, he is the family head's cousin. You should wait for the family head to return before you deal with this matter. Ji Tianqing looked at Qi Tianhe and sneered. Looks like you have been hiding very deeply. You actually deceived everyone. However, don't hoot in front of me. I will immediately expose your true colors and make you admit your guilt. Once this was said, Qi Tianhe's eyes narrowed, and a hint of fear flashed across his eyes. He sneered disdainfully on the surface, but he was quite vigilant in his heart. He thought to himself, what does this kid mean? Could it be that he has already caught my weakness? Impossible. I have been hiding for so many years and even Qi Tianlong was deceived. He has only been in the Qi family for half a month, and he can already find evidence of my crimes? Impossible. He must be tricking me. Qi Tianhe regained his confidence and calmness. He sneered contemptuously. Sir Consecrator, how many days have you been in the Qi family? Why are you so eager to show off your power? I don't have any interaction with you. How did I offend you? You actually slandered me and slandered me as a traitor. You want to destroy me. Tonight, I must have an explanation to prove my innocence. Otherwise, I will definitely remonstrate with the clan head and ask the clan head to punish you. A sinner who has harmed the Qi clan. Ji Tianqing revealed a meaningful smile and said slowly, I know that no one believes that Qi Tianhe is the traitor. But now, I will let you all understand why he betrayed the Qi family. Hearing this, the hall immediately quieted down. Everyone stared at Ji Tianqing waiting for his answer. Even Qi Tianhe was full of confidence as he looked at him with a cold smile. Ji Tianqing explained unhurriedly. At that time, Qi Tianhe and Qi Tianlong were the most outstanding young disciples of the Qi family, and also the candidates for the family head. However, Qi Tianhe's talent and aptitude were slightly weaker than Qi Tianlong's. Later on, everyone knew that Qi Tianlong was chosen by the old patriarch to inherit the position of patriarch. Qi Tianhe, on the other hand, had failed in the fight for the position. He appeared to be disheartened and suffered a heavy blow. In order to lower the patriarch's wariness, he pretended not to care about the family business and development. He was obsessed with the cultivation of the divine Tao, and spent most of his time in seclusion. When he was not in seclusion, He was indulging in pleasure and sensual pleasures. He even deliberately sent people to smear his own name and make his reputation bad. 30 years later, the Qi family grew and became even more prosperous. The patriarch also firmly grasped the power, and the Qi family was harmonious. At that time, the patriarch felt that Qi Tianhe was no longer a threat. Seeing that he had neglected himself, he could not bear it and made him the 5th deacon. From then on, Qi Tianhe began to plot revenge. He pretended to be obsessed with women and fell in love with the Liu family's 3rd miss, acting out an enviable love. Then, he married the Liu family's 3rd miss and established a relationship with the Liu family. In these years, he secretly interacted with the Liu family and used various methods to embezzle the Qi family's hundreds of millions of assets. Originally, he wanted to use the Liu family's power to gradually destroy the Qi family in 200 years. When the Qi family fell apart, he would replace it. However, in the fight for the Profound Light Cave, the Blood Sword sect cooperated with the Liu family. I defeated all the opponents and obtained the Profound Light Cave for the Qi family. Therefore, we offended the Liu family and the Blood Sword sect, and will definitely suffer revenge. Qi Tianhe immediately saw the hope of revenge and found an opportunity. He and the Liu family agreed to borrow the power of the Blood Sword sect to give the Qi family a heavy blow. In these days, the patriarch, the young patriarch, and I are not here. The 1st deacon and 2nd deacon are also guarding the Profound Light Cave. In the entire Qi family, his status was the highest. Therefore, he began to act. Tonight, he took the defensive map of the God Beast Valley and quietly left the Qi family. In a mountain in the southern suburbs, he gave the defensive map to the leader of the black-clothed men, a divine monarch expert from the Blood Sword sect. Then, Qi Tianhe quietly returned to the Qi family and waited for news. The divine monarch expert of the Blood Sword sect led more than 40 black-clothed experts to attack the God Beast Valley. Everyone already knows what happened next. After saying this, Ji Tianqing quietly looked at Qi Tianhe with a cold smile. The hall was deathly silent. Jin Zhong, Jiawen, and more than 20 core members were all dumbstruck. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines as they revealed expressions of disbelief. No one could believe that Ji Tianqing had figured out the ins and outs of the Qi family in just half a month. Moreover, what he said was logical, and his reasoning was clear. Instantly, everyone believed half of it. Their gazes towards Qi Tianhe also became complicated, with some alienation and disgust. Qi Tianhe suddenly panicked. However, he still maintained his calm and even led the applause. Clap! Clap, clap! A burst of crisp applause sounded in the hall. Qi Tianhe said with a cold smile, "Wonderful. The story told by Lord Consecrator spans several decades and is very vivid. It's really wonderful." Jin Zhong, Jiawen, and the core members all had dumbfounded expressions. How can you still be happy when others have already identified you as a traitor? You even led the applause and praised the story for being wonderful? Are you admitting that you are a traitor? At this time, the smile on Qi Tianhe's face disappeared as he shouted coldly, "But, Lord Consecrator, you can't just casually make up a story to slander me. Even if you make it sound extravagant, you have no evidence. If you can't produce evidence, then you are just making things up and slandering me. You and I are irreconcilable. I will let the patriarch punish you severely." The 2 deacons and the core members immediately came to their senses as their gazes fell on Ji Tianqing. That's right. No matter how realistic his story was, there had to be evidence. Ji Tianqing revealed a confident smile as he slowly took out a spatial ring. Qi Tianhe, you really won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Since that's the case, I will let you die with a clear understanding. Chapter 2844. Ji Tianqing was so confident. The atmosphere in the hall immediately became tense. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the spatial ring in his hand. Even Qi Tianhe was calm on the surface, but he was panicking inside. He vaguely felt that the situation was not good. Damn bastard. Did he really find some evidence? Thinking of this, he secretly clenched his fists in his sleeves. At the same time, Ji Tianqing took out a translucent jade slip from the spatial ring. It was a palm-wide, foot-long jade slip with special symbols engraved on it. The deacons and the core members of the Qi family could tell at a glance that it was the Qi family's special insignia. Ji Tianqing held the jade slip in his hand and showed it to everyone. This spatial ring came from the leader of the black-robed men, the divine lord of the blood sword sect. I found this jade slip in the ring, and this jade slip recorded the layout of the Divine Beast Valley's defenses, as well as the method to open the array. Originally, the jade slip was hidden in the secret treasury of the Patriarch. But Qi Tianhe had ulterior motives and had been planning for a long time. He took advantage of the Patriarch's absence to steal it. Then, he took the jade slip to a secret location in the southern suburbs and gave it to the Divine Lord of the Blood Sword sect. He is the culprit behind the destruction of the God Beast Valley. Ji Tianqing's tone was dignified and contained a resolute and unquestionable domineering aura. Qi Tianhe's face immediately became angry and he shouted with grief and indignation, "Nonsense! You're slandering me! You're slandering me!" Ji Tianqing ignored him and secretly used his spiritual energy to suppress him, causing him to feel dizzy and unable to speak. He continued, Qi Tianhe made a deal with the Lu family and the Blood Sword sect to overthrow the Qi family. After they succeeded, the Blood Sword sect would obtain the Profound Light Cave, and the Lu family would divide a portion of the Qi family's assets and businesses. Qi Tianhe would become the patriarch and join the Blood Sword sect, becoming their lackey. The expressions of the two deacons and the 20 or so backbones changed dramatically once again. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Many people felt a chill run down their spines as they glared at Qi Tianhe with deep hatred. Qi Tianhe's methods were too vicious and ruthless. Being stared at by more than 20 sharp gazes, Qi Tianhe was so angry that his entire body trembled, but he could not make a sound. He tried his best but could only shout hoarsely, "No, it's not like that." Ji Tianqing still ignored him and shouted to the door, "Bai Long, show me the evidence." Following his words, Bai Long stepped into the hall with a jade plate in his hands. He walked in front of Ji Tianqing, holding the jade plate with both hands, and bowed as he presented it. Reporting to Master, this is something disciple just found in the 5th deacon's residence. Everyone's gazes landed on the 2-foot-long jade plate. Inside there was a set of black clothes, a dozen jade slips, and a few special tokens. Ji Tianqing held up the jade plate and showed it to everyone. He said in a cold voice, "This is the black clothes Qi Tianhe wore tonight." These jade slips recorded all the accounts of the Qi family's assets that he secretly embezzled over the past few decades, as well as the records of his transactions with the Lu family. These special tokens were used to prove his identity when he secretly contacted the Lu family and the Blood Sword sect. After speaking, Ji Tianqing threw the jade plate to Bai Long. His gaze was as sharp as a sword, and he glared at Qi Tianhe as he shouted, "Qi Tianhe, now that there are witnesses and evidence, how are you going to deny it? I will now impartially execute the law and kill you in front of everyone to punish the traitor." Qi Tianhe had been listening to him slander in front of everyone, and he had even taken out all kinds of evidence to support it. He was so angry that his face was ashen, and his entire body was trembling. Unfortunately, he was suppressed by Ji Tianqing's power and could not defend himself. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. At this time, Ji Tianqing suddenly withdrew his power. Qi Tianhe was no longer restrained. He immediately opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He roared at the top of his lungs, "Bullshit! You are slandering me! How dare you frame me? I don't know any of those bullshit tokens. You deliberately framed me. And those transaction bills, you also forged them. Who would be stupid enough to leave the bills at their residence? And leave the black clothes in their room? I put them in my ring and carry them with me. You are slandering me and distorting the truth. Do you think everyone is a fool?" Qi Tianhe shouted with hatred. His voice was like a bell, and his roar shook the heavens and the earth, causing the entire hall to shake. After this violent and hearty scolding, the anger in his heart was vented, and his emotions gradually calmed down. Then he found that everyone in the hall was dumbfounded. Jin Zhong, Jiawen, and more than 20 core members were staring at him dumbfounded. Their expressions and eyes were extremely strange. Even Ji Tianqing and Bai Long looked at him with pity. Qi Tianhe felt that something was wrong. When he recalled what he had just said, he was instantly stunned. His body stiffened and his expression froze. His right hand subconsciously retracted into his sleeve, wanting to take off his infinite space ring. Clap, clap, clap. At this time Ji Tianqing suddenly clapped his hands. The crisp applause echoed in the hall. It was like a slap on Qi Tianhe's face again and again. Ji Tianqing looked at him with a smile and gave him a thumbs up. He said, Qi Tianhe, you are really a man. You dare to admit what you have done. Everyone heard it just now, right? Qi Tianhe has already admitted his crime. The transaction bills and the black clothes are all hidden in his infinite space ring. No one answered. The hall was silent. However, the 2 deacons and more than 20 corps members were full of hostility toward Qi Tianhe. They stared at him with hatred. Qi Tianhe was completely dumbfounded. He felt his body stiffen, and his hands and feet were cold. Ji Tianqing reached out and picked up the jade plate. He threw it on the ground and sneered. Qi Tianhe, you guessed right. I forged these. The black clothes and the token were all found randomly. The dozens of jade slips were also blank. There was no record at all. Bai Long didn't even go to your residence. You carried the evidence of your crime with you and hid it very well. I have only been in the Qi family for half a month. How could I find evidence of your crime? After listening to Ji Tianqing's words, everyone felt a chill down their spines. Fear grew in their hearts. Everyone then understood. It turned out that Deacon Tianqing and Bai Long had put on a show to trick Qi Tianhe. However, their acting was too realistic. Not only did everyone not see through it, but even Qi Tianhe was stunned. That was why he fell for it. After all, everyone only knew that Ji Tianqing was powerful and ruthless. They did not know anything else. Qi Tianhe was also afraid that Ji Tianqing would distort the truth and directly kill him with a sword. Then he would have died too unjustly. That was why the situation had turned out like this. But no matter what, Qi Tianhe had already lost. He had lost completely. End of chapter. Chapter 2845. The hall was dead silent. The atmosphere was stifling as if it had frozen. The 2 deacons and the other backbones were afraid of Ji Tianqing's schemes. They also hated Qi Tianhe's despicable and insidious ways. No one dared to look at Ji Tianqing. They could only glare at Qi Tianhe to vent their anger and hatred with their eyes. Qi Tianhe finally came back to his senses. He was extremely upset and blamed himself, but he was not reconciled to this. He pointed at Ji Tianqing and roared at the crowd, "Why are you looking at me like that? It's this bastard who is slandering me. You heard it just now. He has no evidence at all. Those are all fake. Are you blind? Or are you deaf? I'm not guilty. He's framing me." Qi Tianhe roared with a ferocious face and tried to defend himself. However, everyone's gazes towards him became colder and colder, and even revealed a strong sense of contempt and disdain. Qi Tianhe was about to go crazy. He glared at the crowd and tried to defend himself. "What do you mean? I've been in the Qi family for hundreds of years. Why don't you believe me? This bastard has only been here for half a month. How can you believe him? He's a spy. He's deliberately destroying the stability of the Qi family. He's the one who has ulterior motives and wants to destroy the Qi family." However, no matter how Qi Tianhe framed and slandered Ji Tianqing, the crowd remained unmoved. Ji Tianqing sat at the head of the table and watched his performance with a smile. He had no intention of stopping him. Bai Long could not stand it anymore. He shook his head in disdain and said, "Qi Tianhe, put away your clumsy performance. It's so embarrassing. Confess honestly and you might be able to keep your life. Don't show off your pitiful intelligence." Qi Tianhe was furious. He stared at him with bloodshot eyes and roared, "Shut up. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that?" Bai Long narrowed his eyes. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he sneered, "Qi Tianhe, you're finished." Qi Tianhe was even more furious and wanted to scold him again. At this time Jin Zhong and Jiawen had to say something. "Enough. 5th Deacon, shut up." The 2 of them coldly cried out at the same time, causing the entire place to quiet down. Jin Zhong said expressionlessly, "5th Deacon, you have admitted your crime in public. There is nothing to say." Jiawen also said with a cold expression, "5th Deacon, the family head has treated you well, and the Qi family has not done anything wrong to you. Why did you collude with the enemy and plot against the Qi clan? Why did you commit such a heinous crime? Now that things have come to this, why don't you kneel down and admit your mistake? How long are you going to persist in your wrong ways? Qi Tianhe was stunned for a moment, then he looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. Haha, I understand now. The two of you are in cahoots with the consecrator. You have been bought over by him long ago. I refuse to accept this. Just the few of you are not qualified to convict me. Jinzhong, Jiawen, and more than 20 backbones all looked at Ji Tianxing. Among those present, Ji Tianxing had the highest status. It was up to him to decide how to deal with this matter. Jinzhong cupped his hands in salute and said, Sir Consecrator, this matter will be handled by you. We have no objections. However, I still suggest that you wait for the family head to return. Without waiting for him to finish, Ji Tianxing waved his hand and interrupted him. He sneered and said, There's no need to wait. It's a waste of time. As he said that, a destructive aura burst out from his body. It was as if Mount Tai was pressing down on him, pressing down on Qi Tianhe. Qi Tianhe's legs suddenly went soft, and he knelt down in the hall with a thud. His body was bent, and his head was buried deep in his chest. His entire body was trembling violently. He refused to admit defeat and struggled with all his might. He wanted to raise his head and stand up. However, Ji Tianxing's aura was all concentrated on him. He was suppressed to the point that he could not move. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose, and the skin on his body was constantly cracking. Ah! Qi Tianhe roared in anger and pain. His voice was hoarse as he roared, You bastard! I am the family head's brother. You have no right to punish me. Don't forget, you are just a dog raised by the Qi family. Ji Tianxing's face became even more gloomy. He stood up and walked in front of Qi Tianhe. He took out a token and handed it to him. Qi Tianhe, take a good look at what this is. Qi Tianhe tried hard to raise his head. He only took one look at the token, and his expression changed drastically. The young master's token. Jinzhong, Jiawen, and more than 20 core members also recognized the token. It was Qi Huangji's young master's token. This token represented that the young master was here in person, and he could make all the decisions. Other than the family head, Qi Tianlong, no one else could go against him. After a moment of shock, everyone bowed in unison and said, We will obey the honorable master's orders. Qi Tianhe's eyes widened, revealing a look of deep shock and despair. However, he was still unwilling to give up. He roared, How could Qi Huangji's young master's token be in your hands? You must have forged this young master's token. You must have murdered the young master and taken the young master's token. Ji Tianxing put away the young master's token and sneered. You are about to die, but you are still so stubborn. You still want to bite me? You are too naive. Then he slowly lifted his right foot and stomped on Qi Tianhe's head. Bam! With a muffled thud, Qi Tianhe was trampled under his feet and prostrated on the ground. The ground of the entire hall trembled violently from the impact, and a crack appeared in the ground. Qi Tianhe was bleeding from all 7 orifices, and his entire body was trembling. He was humiliated to the extreme, and the anger in his chest was about to explode. Tears of blood flowed out of his eyes. Ji Tianxing took out the sword of burial of heaven and shouted angrily, According to the Qi family's rules, those who collude with foreign enemies and betray the family will be beheaded in public, and their names will be erased from the family tree. Tonight, the family head is not here, so I will execute the punishment on behalf of the young master. Then he raised the sword of burial of heaven and slashed it toward Qi Tianhe's neck. Arr! Qi Tianhe roared like a madman. Bastard! How dare you kill me? I am a disciple of the Qi family, the family head's cousin, and you are an outsider. You have no right to... However, before Qi Tianhe could finish his words, he stopped abruptly. Poof! A cold light bloomed and crimson-red blood splattered. Qi Tianhe's head was separated from his body, and he no longer made a sound. Blood spilled in the hall and dyed the ground red. The few backbones nearby subconsciously took 2 steps back, and they were so frightened that their bodies trembled. This young honorary master's methods were too ruthless, and his actions were too decisive. Then the hall was dead silent. Everyone lowered their heads, and they did not dare to look at Ji Tianxing. Qi Tianhe's corpse lay quietly on the ground, and his eyes were still wide open, unwilling to close in peace. Ji Tianqing held the sword of burial of heaven and pierced it into his head, picking out a colorful godhead. He used a secret technique to seal the godhead, and put it into the space ring. Then, he announced in a dignified tone, "The traitor has been eliminated, and his accomplices will also be caught and punished according to the family rules. This matter will be handled by Jin Zhong. The rebuilding of the Divine Beast Valley and the search for the escaped divine beasts will be supervised by Jiao and personally. As for Qi Tianhe's godhead, I will hand it over to the family head for him to deal with." End of chapter. Chapter 2846. Dealing with the traitor was a long story, but in fact Ji Tianqing only used an hour to deal with it. When he announced the end of the meeting, dawn had arrived and the sky was slightly brighter. Jin Zhong, Jiawen, and more than 20 Qi family members walked out of the meeting hall, still feeling like they were in a dream. What happened just now was too shocking for them. Many of them were still in a daze. No one had expected Reverend Tianqing's schemes and methods to be so unfathomable. His way of doing things was too ruthless and decisive, which made people terrified. Of course, Qi Tianhe was a traitor. This matter shocked everyone and they found it hard to believe. It even overturned their centuries-old impression. Everyone sighed in their hearts. The seemingly unambitious and frivolous Qi Tianhe actually betrayed the Qi family, and even wanted to destroy it. And the seemingly outsider Tianqing, who had just joined the Qi family half a month ago, was the hero who saved the Qi family. This was simply too ironic. Human nature was really complicated. When the sun rose in the Hall of Offerings, Ji Tianqing sat in the study with his eyes closed, waiting patiently. At this moment, Bai Long stepped into the study and reported the situation. "Master, Deacon Jin Zhong has sealed off the southern courtyard and started investigating Qi Tianhe's accomplices. He found a lot of evidence in Qi Tianhe's residence." Deacon Jiawen also rushed to the Divine Beast Valley in the southern part of the city with hundreds of guards to carry out the mission. "What happened last night has spread throughout the Qi family. Now, everyone is talking about it and is extremely respectful to you." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly, indicating that he already knew. Bai Long was a little angry and snorted coldly. "Those Qi family members don't know what's good for them. Master, you found the traitor and protected the Qi family's wealth and glory. It's fine if those people are not grateful, but they are actually talking behind your back, saying that you are ruthless and merciless like the god of death. They are very afraid of you." Ji Tianqing smiled faintly and said with an indifferent tone, "Why do I need their understanding and gratitude for my actions? Moreover, we're only staying here temporarily and won't be staying for long. Why should we care about their opinions?" Hearing this, Bai Long frowned and asked, "Master, are you planning to leave Qingshan City?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "This is inevitable, but not now." "When was that?" White Dragon asked. Ji Tianqing revealed a meaningful smile and said, "Of course, we have to wait until the right time." The White Dragon was stunned for a moment and did not pursue the matter any further. He had always had doubts in his heart. Now that he had nothing to do, he asked curiously, "Master, you didn't have any interaction with Qi Tianhe before, and you didn't mention the traitor. Why did you bring up this matter last night and resolve it so quickly? How do you know that Qi Tianhe is colluding with the Lu clan and the Bloodsword sect?" He even described the process of their collusion clearly and vividly. Ji Tianqing glanced at him and chuckled. "Before last night, I didn't know that there was a traitor in the Qi family. However, I found that someone escaped in the middle of the night with ghostly traces. So, I followed that person to the southern suburbs and secretly watched their transaction. At that time, I suspected that there was a traitor in the Qi family, so I remembered that person's body shape, characteristics, and aura." Bai Long suddenly understood and nodded. "I see. So when you returned to the Qi residence and saw Qi Tianhe, you knew that he was a traitor." Ji Tianqing nodded and then explained, "After that, I went to the Divine Beast Valley and personally killed the black-robed men, injuring the black-robed divine monarch of the Bloodsword sect. The black-robed divine monarch was seriously injured and left his ring on the battlefield. After I got the ring, I found a way to open it and found the defensive layout of the Divine Beast Valley. When I returned to the Qi residence, I recognized that Qi Tianhe was the traitor. Combining his life experience and the identity of his wife, I made up a self-justifying and plausible explanation. Bai Long was stunned. Ah, when you were in the main hall, you spoke so much eloquently. You exposed Qi Tianhe's experience, psychology, and conspiracy clearly. Not only did those deacons and backbones believe it, but even I thought it was true. I didn't expect you to make it up casually. Ji Tianqing nodded and smiled. I'm not an omnipotent god, so how could I know everything about Qi Tianhe? Moreover, time was tight, so I was too lazy to collect evidence. So, I made up a half-true and half-false story. As long as everyone thinks it's true, it's enough. Bai Long suddenly understood and continued. Everyone was prejudiced by first impressions and was intimidated by your aura, so they thought that Qi Tianhe was the traitor. But Qi Tianhe knew that you were only half right, and the rest was fabricated and slandered. He was very angry and eager to defend himself, but he couldn't refute your suppression. After you finished speaking, you withdrew your pressure. Qi Tianhe suddenly regained his freedom and vented his anger without any scruples, only wanting to defend himself. But he was too agitated and didn't calm down enough, so he let it slip in front of everyone. In this way, he confessed without being pressed and would be doomed eternally. Ji Tianqing nodded and smiled. That's right. Bai Long held his stomach and laughed, full of admiration. Master, you're simply too awesome. You played Qi Tianhe in the palm of your hand and easily crushed his IQ. That guy endured for hundreds of years and finally got the chance to usurp the throne, but you destroyed it instantly. Now that I think about it, that guy is really pitiful. Ji Tianqing said indifferently. A pitiful person must have something hateful. Bai Long hesitated and asked, Master, time was tight last night, so you used this trick. Actually, there was still a risk to this brilliant plan. What if Qi Tianhe was astute and calm enough and didn't reveal any flaws? How do you plan to deal with it? Ji Tianqing waved his hand and replied indifferently. Then don't talk nonsense with him, just kill him directly. Anyway, my position is the highest and I'm the strongest. No one will dare to stop me if I kill him in front of everyone. As for the evidence, I'll just send people to collect it later. Bai Long pinched his chin with his right hand and chuckled. Master is domineering enough. Qi Tianhe will die if he meets you. There's no way he can escape. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and ordered, let's not talk about this anymore. Enter the God Pagoda now. Master will personally go to the Profound Light Cave. Since the Bloodsword sect has already made a move on the God Beast Valley, they won't let go of the Profound Light Cave. If Master's guess is right, the Profound Light Cave will soon be in trouble. Bai Long thought for a moment and nodded repeatedly. Yes, Master's foresight is truly amazing. The Lu family and the Bloodsword sect colluded to deal with the Qi family. They could have split into two groups and acted at the same time. Let's hurry to the Profound Light Cave and hope to prevent the tragedy from happening. Chapter 2847. After White Dragon entered the Divine Tower, Ji Tianqing left the Qi estate. The God Beast Valley had just been attacked, so the Qi estate situation was a bit chaotic. Logically speaking, Ji Tianqing had to stay in the Qi estate to stabilize the situation. However, he was sure that the Lu family, Bloodsword sect, and the City Lord's estate would not attack the God Beast Valley again. Nor would they attack the Qi estate directly. Fighting in the city and attacking a noble family was defying the laws of the divine nation. The Bloodsword sect, the Lu family, and the City Lord's estate were not that crazy. Therefore, the Qi estate and the God Beast Valley were safe for the time being. Only the Profound Light Cave and the Setting Sun Sea region hundreds of thousands of miles away were the most dangerous. When Ji Tianqing left the Qi estate, he used the Armillary Heaven secret technique to conceal himself and hide his aura. No one knew that he had left. The people of the Qi estate all thought that he was cultivating in seclusion in the Venerate court. Moreover, the Qi family was very respectful of him, and did not dare to disturb him in the Venerate court. After a while, Ji Tianqing left Azure Mountain City. He flew high into the sky and rushed north at his fastest speed, heading straight for the Setting Sun Sea region. Late in the morning, on an island not far from the Profound Light Cave in the Setting Sun Sea region, a black-robed old man nearly 3 meters tall with a thin face was standing on a pitch-black reef. Although he wore a mask and a bamboo hat, a gray-white goatee could still be seen. The deep eyes under the mask stared at the sea in the east, waiting quietly. There was a blurry shadow at the end of the sea. It was the island where the profound light cave was located. Beside the black-robed old man stood a tall and handsome young man. This person was also wearing a pitch-black robe and a silver mask that covered his true face. There was a dark red mark on the forehead of the mask. It was a blood-red sword filled with a baleful aura. An old man and a young man stood side by side, looking at the profound light cave in the distance. Behind the two stood 8 black-robed experts, all of whom were at the 6th or 7th level of the heavenly god realm. This time, the young man opened his mouth and said, "Foreign elder Shur, when our people evacuated the profound light cave, didn't we tamper with a few things and leave some hidden dangers? Why is it that after such a long time, nothing has happened in the profound light cave, and the Chi family is still mining the ore vein as usual?" The black-robed old man called Consecrator Shur stroked his goatee and said in a deep voice, "Young city lord, you're not the only one who is puzzled. Logically speaking, the hidden dangers in the profound light cave should have erupted long ago. The Chi family will suffer at least a few hundred casualties. They won't be able to continue mining, so they can only ask for our help. That way we can negotiate with the Chi family and take the initiative." Unfortunately, everything was normal in the Cave of Profound Light, and nothing unexpected happened. This old man suspects that the Chi family has an expert helping them, pointing out the right path and removing the hidden danger long ago. It was obvious. These two people were the City Lord's mansion's Consecrator Shur, and the young City Lord Yuan Jia. However, both of them and the guards behind them had covered their faces and disguised themselves as members of the Blood Sword sect. Yuan Jia pondered for a moment and asked, "What kind of expert can the Chi family have? Could it be that the Ning family of the Sky Snow County City sent an expert to help?" Consecrator Shur thought for a moment and nodded slightly. "That's the only possibility. However, we've been monitoring the Chi family, and didn't notice the arrival of the Ning family. This matter is very strange. This old man suspects that the consecrator of the Chi family." Before he could finish, Yuan Jia's expression changed, and deep hatred surged out of his eyes. "Impossible. The consecrator of the Chi family is just a brat who hasn't even reached the divine monarch realm. What ability does he have? How could he remove the hidden danger in the profound light cave?" Ever since Yuan Jia lost to Ji Tianqing, he had been living in humiliation, and his temper had become much more irritable. He hated Ji Tianqing to the bone, and would never admit that Ji Tianqing was stronger than him. Consecrator Shur understood his thoughts and didn't say anything, quickly changing the topic. "Young City Lord, you don't have to worry about the previous matter. It doesn't matter that the hidden danger has been removed. This old man sneaked into the profound light cave last night, and already buried more than 30 divine light bombs. That group of elite guards just now have already sneaked into Profound Light Island, and will detonate those bombs soon. You just wait and see. The Profound Light Cave is about to collapse, and several ore veins will be destroyed. At that time, not only will the Chi family suffer heavy casualties, the Profound Light Cave will also fall into chaos." Yuan Jia's anger subsided a little, and he said with a cold smile, "That's good. The Chi family's people are too rampant. They must be taught a bitter lesson. After the Profound Light Cave is blown up, we'll take the opportunity to kill our way in, kill all the Chi family's people, and take back the Profound Light Cave. But what's a little troublesome is that the Profound Light Cave has been destroyed. If we want to continue mining the ore veins, we'll have to spend a lot of time and effort to clear them out." Hearing this, Consecrator Shur couldn't help frowning. He waved his hand and explained, "Young City Lord, we're only responsible for destroying the Profound Light Cave and giving the Chi family a heavy blow. We absolutely can't slaughter the Chi family's people, and we can't take over the Profound Light Cave now. Don't forget that we're now disguised as the Blood Sword sect's people. Once we take over the Profound Light Cave, we have to use the name of the Blood Sword sect. Isn't that working for the Blood Sword sect?" Yuan Jia quickly shook his head and said, "How can that be? We'll put in effort and manpower. How can we let the Blood Sword sect take advantage of us?" Consecrator Shur nodded and said, "That's right. Since we can't use the name of the Blood Sword sect, we have to use the banner of the City Lord's mansion. But in this way, Won't we be admitting to the world that it was the City Lord's mansion that destroyed the profound light cave and the Qi family? The City Lord's mansion will become the target of public criticism, and may even be punished by the laws of the Divine Empire and turned into ashes. Yuan Jie frowned and asked in a deep voice, "Then what should we do? After destroying the profound light cave, we withdraw from this place and watch with folded arms?" Consecrator Shi nodded slightly and said, "Of course. The City Lord has secretly formed an alliance with the Bloodsword sect and the Lu family. We'll carry out the first step of the plan, disguise ourselves as the Bloodsword sect's people, destroy the profound light cave and create chaos. The second step is for the experts of the Bloodsword sect and the Lu family to kill the guards and craftsmen of the Qi family and occupy the profound light cave. The third step is for the City Lord's mansion and the Lu family to join hands and send out craftsmen, miners, and guards to jointly mine the profound light cave. The Bloodsword sect wants 60% of the profits, while the Lu family and we each get 20%. Of course, the duration of this agreement is only 10 years. Hearing this, Yuan Jie immediately frowned, his expression turning grave. "Father, when did you form an alliance with them to discuss this matter? Why am I completely unaware?" Consecrator Shi smiled and said, "Just a few days ago. At that time you were cultivating in seclusion." Yuan Jie didn't pursue the matter and continued to ask, "You mean that in this plan, we'll be responsible for destroying the profound light cave and providing the mining technology and craftsmen? The Lu family will be responsible for providing manpower, including guards and miners, and the Bloodsword sect won't participate in the mining process and will only be the scapegoat, but will get 60% of the profits?" Chapter 2848. Consecrator Shi was silent for a moment before he nodded in agreement. "That's right. That's roughly what you mean." Yuan Jie was not stupid. After learning about the agreement between the three parties, he understood the reason. Our City Lord's mansion has the technology to mine ore veins, as well as our understanding of the profound light cave. This is our bargaining chip. Although the Lu family did not have much ability, they could provide a lot of manpower. Moreover, they're the middlemen who can form an alliance with the Bloodsword sect. However, the status of our families is not high enough for us to show our faces in public. That's because we can't withstand the punishment of public opinion and the laws of the kingdom of God. The Bloodsword sect, on the other hand, was most suited for such dirty work. Even if the Qi family and the other aristocratic families knew that the Bloodsword sect was behind this, there was nothing they could do about it. After all, the Bloodsword sect has a very high status in the Divine Nation. They have the confidence to dissolve the sanctions of the Divine Nation's laws and suppress public opinion. Consecrator Shi hurriedly nodded his head and said with a gratified expression, "Young City Lord is indeed intelligent. If the City Lord knows about this, he will definitely be very pleased." Yuan Jie was still a bit worried. "Venerable Shi, you also know that the Bloodsword sect openly slaughtered a noble family and seized their assets. This is a serious violation of the Divine Nation's laws. This kind of thing could be big or small. If the remnants of the Qi clan were to climb up to the Ning clan of Qianxue County and go to the capital to complain, even if the Bloodsword sect is one of the 6 great sects, I'm afraid that they won't be able to withstand the punishment of the Divine Nation and resolve the wrath of the monarch." Consecrator Shi gently shook his head and sent a voice transmission. "Young City Lord, you don't have to worry about this matter. The 4th elder of the Bloodsword sect revealed a secret to the City Lord. Just 2 years ago, the Bloodsword sect had already climbed up to the royal family and submitted to a noble and important figure. Since the Bloodsword sect dared to do this, it meant that they had enough confidence. Even if the remnants of the Qi clan go to the capital to complain, this matter will still be left unsettled." After saying that, Consecrator Shi revealed a meaningful smile on his face. Yuan Jie stared blankly for a moment, then came to a realization, and a big smile appeared on his face. "I see. Then I'm relieved." Consecrator Shi nodded and said with a smile, "So, let's wait and watch the show." As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd fell silent. At the eastern end of the sea, the blurry black shadow suddenly shook a few times. Then an earth-shattering rumble sounded from 30,000 miles away. Yuan Jie and Consecrator Shi both saw that the profound light island trembled violently a few times. bursting with divine flames that soared into the sky. Moreover, huge waves that were thousands of feet high were also stirred up in the eastern sea, and they were spreading at an extremely fast speed. Success! Consecrator Shi sneered complacently. Yuan Jie also clenched his fists and nodded. The show is about to begin. The two of them waited expectantly. About half an hour later, a group of black shadows flew out from the bottom of the ocean and landed on the rocks by the shore. There were a total of 12 elite experts. They were all dressed in black and wore masks. There was a blood sword symbol on their foreheads. Everyone bowed in unison and reported to Chief Shi. Reporting to my lord, the mission has been successfully completed. Consecrator Shi nodded in satisfaction and said, "Very good. When we return, this old man will reward you heavily." After he finished speaking, a black-clothed expert stepped out, took out a broken 5-colored crystal, and presented it in front of Chief Shi. Reporting to my lord, after the profound light cave was destroyed, this subordinate found this crystal near the 9th mine. Chief Shi took the 5-colored crystal and examined it in his palm. This broken crystal was only the size of a walnut, but it was crystal clear and flashed with a 5-colored divine light. It contained an extremely majestic divine power that was dozens of times more than ordinary divine stones. Chief Shi immediately narrowed his eyes and revealed a shocked expression. He exclaimed in a low voice, "This is a divine crystal. This is a divine crystal that is 100 times more valuable than divine stones. A divine crystal contains 100 times more power than a divine stone. Moreover, divine crystals are even purer and have a unique advantage. The divine power inside can be directly refined. Not only that, divine crystals have hundreds of effects, such as healing, cultivation, setting up formations, refining." Yuan Jie also stared at the divine crystal with a burning gaze and said excitedly, "The power and effect of divine crystals far surpasses divine stones. Logically speaking, a divine crystal is worth 100 divine stones. But in fact, divine crystals are very rare and difficult to circulate in the market. Even 500 divine stones couldn't buy a single divine crystal. Only the top nobles and powerhouses are qualified to use divine crystals as currency and cultivation resources." In fact, Yuan Jie owned a divine crystal. It was a birthday gift from the city lord. He had been treasuring it and occasionally took it out to play with. According to the city lord, when he was studying and cultivating in the capital, he made a few noble friends. He spent 30,000 divine stones to buy a few divine crystals from one of his friends. And this was because they had a good relationship that the other party was willing to trade with him. If it were others, even if they offered a higher price, the other party would not be willing to sell. Chief Shi held the broken divine crystal and asked in a low voice, "You found this divine crystal near the 9th mine? There's a divine crystal in the profound light cave? Why didn't we find it before? What's going on?" The black-clothed expert hurriedly explained, "Reporting to my lord, after the 9th mine was blown up, gravel and slag burst out. This divine crystal was mixed in with the gravel. I saw that this divine crystal was dazzling and full of divine energy. It must be extraordinary, so I brought it back for you." Chief Shi's eyes widened, and his goatee trembled with excitement. "So, doesn't that mean there's a lot of divine crystals hidden in the 9th mine? And there's a divine crystal mine under the 9th mine?" Hearing this, Yuan Jie's breathing quickened, and his face turned red. "A divine crystal mine? Oh my God! If that's true, how many divine crystals would it produce?" Chief Shi turned to look at him and said in a low voice, "Even if it's just a small mine, it can produce millions of divine crystals. What kind of astonishing wealth was that? Congratulations, young city lord, we're going to have a meteoric rise." Yuan Jie was even more excited. His blood was boiling and he even felt unbearably hot. "Ha ha ha ha. If we can have millions of divine crystals, we can become a top noble family. At that time, not to mention Green Mountain City, we can even become the lord of Tianfeng City." In Yuan Jie's mind, the image of divine crystals piling up like a mountain appeared. He even fantasized about becoming a top noble family and controlling the entire Tianfeng City. However, Chief Shi was a wily old fox, and his temperament was even steadier. He quickly calmed down and persuaded, "Young city lord, this is just this old man's speculation. We can't be happy too early. We'll only know the details after the Blood Sword sect takes over the Profound Light Cave. Moreover, we're an alliance of 3 forces, led by the Blood Sword sect. Even if there's a divine crystal mine in the Profound Light Cave, we can't take it all for ourselves. Most of it will have to be given to the Blood Sword sect. End of chapter. Chapter 2849. The sun was high in the sky. Ji Tianqing was flying in the sky above the setting sun sea region. At this time he was only 100,000 miles away from the Profound Light Cave. I hope I came in time and nothing happened to the Profound Light Cave, Ji Tianqing murmured and prayed in his heart. But at this time, he suddenly heard a loud, muffled sound coming from the sky in front of him. Boom! It was like a muffled thunder that exploded in the sky and reverberated. Not only that, Ji Tianqing also vaguely saw a divine light and flame in the sky 100,000 miles to the north. He could immediately determine the muffled sound came from that area. An earth-shattering explosion had occurred there. 100,000 miles to the north. Isn't that the island where the Profound Light Cave is? Ji Tianqing thought of the Profound Light Cave, and his expression changed. His eyes flashed with anxiety. Damn it! I was one step too late. Did something happen to the Profound Light Cave? Filled with anxiety, he sped up and flew towards the Profound Light Cave. Whoosh! He turned into a blurry shadow and flickered in the sky as he flew towards the north. At the same time, he released his divine sense and covered 30,000 miles around him to investigate the situation. The Profound Light Cave was definitely the work of the Blood Sword sect and the Liu family. At this time, the people of the Blood Sword sect and the Liu family must be near the Profound Light Cave. Not long after, Ji Tianqing arrived near the Profound Light Cave. When he was 40,000 miles away from the Profound Light Island, his divine sense detected the auras of several heavenly god experts rushing at the bottom of the sea. He hurriedly hit his tracks and quietly investigated the situation at the bottom of the sea. He soon saw clearly. They were 12 black-clothed experts who had just escaped from the Profound Light Island and were fleeing towards the island in the west. They were all dressed in black and wore masks to hide their true faces. But they all had the mark of a blood sword on their foreheads. Ji Tianqing immediately frowned, and his eyes became cold. It was indeed the bastards of the Blood Sword sect who secretly blew up the Profound Light Cave. Killing intent rose in his heart. He followed the 12 black-clothed experts and rushed to the island in the west. Not long after, the group arrived at the barren island covered with reefs. 12 men in black flew out of the water and landed on the island, reporting the situation to Yuan Jie and Consecrator Shi. Only then did Ji Tianqing realize that there were actually 10 experts on the island. They were all wearing black clothes and masks. He could tell with a single glance that they were all from the Blood Sword sect. 2 people, one old and one young, stood on the reef. The old man was tall and sturdy, with a grizzled goatee under his mask. His aura was unfathomable. His strength actually reached the Divine Lord realm. That youth was tall and had an extraordinary bearing. His strength was also close to the Divine Lord realm. When Ji Tianqing saw the 2 people clearly, he couldn't help but frown as he muttered in his heart. Why do those 2 from the Blood Sword sect look so familiar? Where have I seen them before? He had originally planned to charge onto the island and exterminate the 22 men in black, but there was something fishy about this. He suppressed his killing intent and hid in the clouds, secretly observing the island. He saw the 12 black-clothed men reporting the situation to the old man. When the old man and the black-clothed youth learned that their plan had succeeded, they sneered with satisfaction. Then, one of the black-clothed men took out a shattered divine crystal and handed it to the old man. Everyone discussed the source of the divine crystal, and the possibility that there was a divine crystal mine in the Profound Light Cave. Ji Tianqing, who was hiding in the clouds, heard everything clearly. At the same time, he recognized the black-clothed old man and the youth and identified them. Yuan Jie? And Consecrator Shi from the City Lord Mansion? It's actually the 2 of them? I didn't expect the City Lord Mansion to ally with the Liu family, and the Blood Sword sect to deal with the Qi family. In order to seize the Profound Light Cave, they actually used such despicable methods. Ji Tianqing didn't hear much, but it was very important. The words three forces and the blood sword sect has seized the profound light cave, allowed him to understand many things. He could no longer suppress the killing intent in his heart and quietly took out the sword of burial of heaven, brazenly attacking. Sword rain. Ji Tianqing pointed the sword of burial of heaven at the sky and roared. Immediately, nearly 10,000 starlight dots appeared in the sky and fell like a meteor shower. 10,000 giant starlight swords, carrying the power to destroy heaven and earth, flew toward the island. The area within 1,000 miles was covered by invisible sword intent, forming a sword Dao domain. At this moment, Consecrator Shi, Yuan Jia, and the others were still standing on the reefs of the island. They had already completed the plan to blow up the profound light cave. Next, they just had to wait for the Blood Sword sect and the Lu family to attack and occupy the profound light cave. But at this moment, 10,000 giant starlight swords fell from the sky and covered the entire island. The invisible and terrifying slaughter sword intent sealed the area within 1,000 miles. Everyone subconsciously looked up at the sky. Seeing the scene in the sky, everyone's expression changed dramatically, revealing shock and anger. Get out of the way. Attack. Don't panic, counterattack. The 20 black-clothed experts were all shocked by the sword intent. Their hearts were filled with fear and they fled in panic. Yuan Jia and Consecrator Shi were still able to keep calm. They shouted loudly and ordered the guards to join forces to resist. The next moment, 10,000 giant swords fell and drowned the entire island. Boom, 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 boom. An earth-shattering sound suddenly exploded between heaven and earth, shaking the sky. The barren island within a radius of 200 miles was torn apart by the giant swords on the spot, splashing out endless dust and gravel. More than half of the island collapsed, leaving only a few dozen miles of ruins, which were also drowned by the monstrous waves. More than half of the 20 black-clothed experts were killed by the giant starlight swords on the spot. 14 of them were smashed to pieces, and even their godheads were shattered. They died directly. The remaining 6 managed to escape with their lives, but they were also heavily injured and fell into the sea in a sorry state. Even Yuan Jia was hit by a few giant swords and suffered heavy injuries. His black robe and protective armor had been blasted into pieces. His hair was disheveled, and he was covered in blood as he lay in the ruins, gasping for breath in pain. Consecrator Shi was the strongest, having reached the 3rd level of the Divine Lord realm. He had withstood the attacks of the giant swords and only suffered light injuries. His black robe was tattered and stained with blood, but even so, when he saw the scene in front of him, he was incomparably shocked and furious. Bastard! Where did this bastard come from, daring to oppose our blood sword sect? Consecrator Shi looked up at the sky, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth as he angrily cursed. Even now, he was still calm, not forgetting to pretend to be an elder of the blood sword sect. Then Ji Tianqing appeared in the sky above the ruins. He looked down at Consecrator Shi and Yuan Jia with a cold smile. Bastards of the blood sword sect, you're actually so despicable. Back in the arena, you pretended to be disciples of the Lu family and were cut down by my sword. Your skills were inferior, so you used such despicable methods. Ji Tianqing recognized Consecrator Shi and Yuan Jia, but he didn't expose them. After all, the Qi family's public enemies were the Blood Sword sect and the Lu family. For the time being, it wasn't appropriate to have a falling out with the City Lord Mansion, let alone start a frontal war. End of chapter. Chapter 2850. Yuan Jia and Consecrator Shi also recognized Ji Tianqing. It's you. Consecrator Shi's pupils constricted, revealing an expression of disbelief. He couldn't accept this result at all. The person who killed 16 guards and injured him and Yuan Jia in one move was actually a consecrator of the Qi family. Not long ago, Consecrator Shi personally hosted the martial arts competition. He remembered clearly that Ji Tianqing was only at the heavenly god realm at that time, not the divine lord realm. And now, Ji Tianqing was still at the heavenly god realm, not the divine lord realm. But his combat strength was more than 20 times stronger than before. How could Consecrator Shi believe this? He was stunned at that time, a storm raging in his heart. Consecrator Shi's reaction was still calm. But Yuan Jie's reaction was even more intense and real. He glared at Ji Tianqing as if he had seen a ghost. His mouth was wide open but he couldn't make any sound. After a long time, he roared hysterically, "Impossible! How can it be you? I don't believe it. It's only been half a month. How can you be so strong?" Yuan Jie's pride and self-confidence were completely crushed and scattered on the ground. Even if he was beaten to death, he couldn't accept this reality. Back then, he lost to Ji Tianqing in the arena, and he regarded it as a great humiliation. He firmly believed that Ji Tianqing was inferior to him. He was the most dazzling genius. Because Ji Tianqing killed him halfway, he didn't understand the situation and underestimated the enemy, which was why he lost miserably. He kept comforting himself like this, and he could still preserve the pride in his heart. But now, the facts proved that Ji Tianqing was more than 20 times stronger than him, killing him like slaughtering a chicken. How could someone as proud and arrogant as him accept this? For a moment, Yuan Jie was so ashamed that blood gushed out of his nose and mouth, and his will was on the verge of collapse. Ji Tianqing didn't waste time. He sneered with a mocking face. "Blood-sword sect animals, you've committed all kinds of crimes and are heartless. Now, I'll kill you on behalf of Tianqing." As he spoke, he opened the 9 heavens 10 absolutes pagoda. Swish! Swish! White Dragon, Yun Yao Jiku and the others appeared in the sky. They had been waiting for a long time. Without saying a word, they attacked Yuan Jie and the 6 black-clothed experts. Before Yuan Jie could see their faces clearly, he was enveloped by a sky full of sword shadows. The 6 injured black-clothed experts were also drowned by the colorful light of the divine spell. Rumble! Bang 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 bang. The two sides began to fight fiercely in the ruins and in the sky. The 6 black-clothed experts were relatively weak, and they were also seriously injured. They were soon forced into a desperate situation and were killed by Yun Yao and Jiku one after another. Yuan Jie was also beaten back by the White Dragon. His injuries were getting worse and worse and his life was at stake. Consecrator Shi's heart was burning with anxiety as he immediately acted to save Yuan Jie. However, just as he was about to attack the White Dragon, he was stopped by Ji Tianqing. "Old bastard, your opponent is me." Ji Tianqing let out a low roar as he waved his sword and launched a fierce attack on Consecrator Shi. Consecrator Shi had no choice but to use all his strength to defend. After the two exchanged 3 moves, Consecrator Shi was forced to retreat and fly towards the sea in the distance. He could only take out his natal divine artifact and fight with Ji Tianqing with 2 divine hooks. However, this could only delay his defeat. He was still no match for Ji Tianqing. He was beaten back continuously, and his injuries were getting worse quickly. 20 breaths later, Ji Tianqing and Consecrator Shi flew thousands of miles away from the island. At this time, the 6 black-clothed experts had already been killed by Yun Yao and Jiku. Not even their bones were left. Yuan Jie was also beaten very badly. He was running away in a sorry state. White Dragon chased after him with murderous intent. Yun Yao and Jiku also started to intercept him. Soon Yuan Jie was in a desperate situation. He was about to die under the joint attack of the 3. At this critical moment, he actually tore off the mask on his face and shouted angrily, "Stop! All of you stop! I'm not a disciple of the Blood-sword sect. I'm the young city lord of Qingshan City, Yuan Jie. You can't kill me. Otherwise, it'll be a public rebellion. The Qi family will also suffer the wrath of the city lord mansion and be reduced to ashes." Yuan Jie was forced into a dead end. He actually announced his true identity in order to survive. This was very shameful and would make the city lord mansion lose face. However, in order to save his life, he couldn't care less. Consecrator Shi, who was thousands of miles away, also stiffened when he heard Yuan Jie's roar. He revealed a bitter smile. His heart was filled with sorrow as he muttered to himself, "Young city lord. Oh young city lord, how can you be so spineless? By announcing your true identity in public, you're admitting that the city lord mansion colluded with the Blood-sword sect to harm the Qi family's property. Not only will this smear the city lord mansion's name and embarrass the city lord, it will also affect our plan. If the Qi family uses this to complain to the county city and the king, our city lord mansion will be finished." At this moment, Consecrator Shur was somewhat disheartened. The city lord was so far-sighted. How could he have such a useless son? Consecrator Shur could understand that Yuan Jia had no choice but to do this to save his life. However, doing this was too shameful and stupid. Consecrator Shur sighed inwardly. Forget it. Forget it. As long as the young city lord can save his life, so be it. He thought that it wouldn't be a problem to save the young city lord's life first, and then plan to deal with the Qi family later. However, the next scene caused his expression to change drastically. His entire heart fell into an ice cellar. Bai Long, Yuniao, and the others were stunned for a moment, frowning as they stared at Yuan Jia. Then White Dragon shouted in a righteous tone, "Bastard! Don't try to fool us. The City Lord Mansion is the parent of Qingshan City. How righteous, fair, and selfless are you? You bastard of the Blood Sword sect! How dare you pretend to be the young City Lord and smear the City Lord Mansion's reputation? You should be cut into pieces." After that, Bai Long, Yuniao, and the others didn't give Yuan Jia a chance to explain. They attacked even more ferociously. Bang bang bang. Rumble. Dozens of dazzling divine abilities and consummate skills with destructive power drowned the despairing Yuan Jia. He was no longer spared. He was dismembered on the spot and exploded into a mist of blood and powder. Even his godhead was shattered by Ji Ke's spear, and more than a dozen fragments flew out. The young city lord Yuan Jia was killed just like that. He died unjustly and sullenly. He was clearly the young city lord, but he pretended to be a disciple of the Blood Sword sect and schemed against the Qi family. In the end, his scheme was seen through, and he was also in a desperate situation. In order to survive, he had to reveal his true identity. However, the other party was even more ruthless. They thought he was a disciple of the Blood Sword sect and killed him directly. What the hell was this? Was there anything more wrongly accused than this? In the sky above the sea 10,000 miles away, Consecrator Shur witnessed Yuan Jia's death with his own eyes. His body immediately turned cold, and his heart was filled with despair. He didn't expect Ji Tianqing to be so ruthless. He didn't give them a chance to live and directly killed them all. End of chapter. Chapter 2851. Consecrator Tianqing. Are you crazy? You actually killed the young city lord. This is a disaster. The Qi family is finished. Consecrator Shur came back to his senses and glared at Ji Tianqing, his eyes spitting fire as he roared and cursed. Ji Tianqing was still attacking fiercely. He looked at Consecrator Shur with disdain and sneered, "Old bastard, you're from the Blood Sword sect, yet you dare to impersonate the city lord? Don't try to quibble. This seat will take Tianqing's place." Consecrator Shur was so angry that he almost vomited blood. "That's the young city lord Yuan Jia. You fought him before. How can you pretend not to know him?" Ji Tianqing curled his lips in disdain. "Bah! How can you fool this seat with such petty tricks? He's a disciple of the Blood Sword sect who disguised himself as Yuan Jia. You still want to deceive this seat? Dream on." After saying that, he sped up his attacks and erupted with even more violent power. Consecrator Shur was beaten back again and again. His injuries were even more miserable, and he was already covered in blood. In his anger, he tore off the mask on his face and roared, "Little bastard, open your eyes and see who this seat is. This seat is a consecrator of the City Lord's mansion, and I presided over the martial competition. You say the young City Lord is a fake, but am I a fake as well? If you stop now, there's still room for negotiation. Otherwise, the City Lord's mansion will be irreconcilable with the Qi family, and the Qi family will be destroyed." Ji Tianqing glanced at him and sneered with disdain. "You're Consecrator Shur? Why don't you say you're the City Lord? Anyway, your face is covered in blood, and your body is covered in wounds. I can't see your original appearance anymore. No matter what you say, this seat won't believe you. I'll kill you." Consecrator Shur was completely mad with anger. He suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He was furious and glared at Ji Tianqing with bloodshot eyes. "Little bastard. You're playing dumb. You clearly recognized us, but you want to kill us all. You're determined to go against the City Lord's mansion. You're dead, and so is the Qi family." Ji Tianqing took the opportunity to cut off his right arm and sneered. That's right. Before I made my move, I already recognized the two of you. But so what? You pretended to be disciples of the Bloodsword sect, so I'll beat you at your own game and kill you all. What's wrong with that? In any case, the Qi clan had already formed a grudge with the Bloodsword sect, so there was no need for them to feel pressured by another blood debt. As for the City Lord Mansion, you formed an alliance with the Liu clan and the Bloodsword sect in order to destroy the Qi clan. Why should I give you face? Not only you and Yuan Jia soon, I will kill the City Lord. If you can't be the City Lord, then let the Qi family be the City Lord. Everything Ji Tianqing said was enough to shock the entire Tianfeng County. However, his tone was very relaxed, like the clouds and the wind. Consecrator Shi was both shocked and angry. There was even a trace of fear in his heart. He stared at Ji Tianqing in disbelief and shook his head repeatedly. You're crazy. You and the Qi family are both crazy. How dare you? How dare you be so reckless? As he roared, blood spurted from his mouth. Ji Tianqing sneered indifferently. You've already attacked the Qi clan and wanted to destroy them. What else do I not dare to do? Besides, I don't feel any pressure or guilt when I kill the God clan. Consecrator Shi was stunned again. He couldn't figure out what those words meant. However, he didn't need to think too much about it. Kaboom! A giant golden sword that could split heaven and earth fell from the sky and slashed at him. His divine body collapsed on the spot, exploding into billions of pieces and a bloody mist that filled the sky and scattered on the sea. Even his quintessence shattered into a dozen pieces and scattered in the sky. Consecrator Shi, a third-level divine lord, died just like that. Whoosh! Ji Tianqing waved his hand, grabbed the dozen quintessence fragments, and put them into his interspatial ring. He put away the sword of burial of heaven, turned around, and flew toward the ruins of the island. Bai Long, Yunyao, and the other two had finished their battle and were cleaning up the battlefield. Ji Tianqing arrived above the ruins and started cleaning up the battlefield. He said, "Put away the fragments of black clothes and masks. Those are all evidence that will be useful in the future." The four worked together and cleaned up the battlefield in just 100 breaths. More than 100 quintessence fragments, 22 interspatial rings, and a dozen sets of black clothes and masks were all put into Ji Tianqing's interspatial ring. This battle was very fruitful. It wasn't just the quintessence fragments, divine stones, and resources in the interspatial ring. Most importantly, the black clothes and masks were the Bloodsword sect's belongings. They were all evidence that would be very useful in the future. Then Yunyao, Bai Long, and the others entered the Divine Tower again. Ji Tianqing left the ruins alone and went to Profound Light Island. The Profound Light Island was currently in chaos. On the island, with a circumference of a few hundred miles, several mountain ranges had collapsed, and huge cracks had appeared. The center of the island was the most damaged. Mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The Profound Light Cave at the bottom of the cliff was even more devastated. Smoke and dust filled the sky. The flat land at the bottom of the cliff was the workshop for refining ores and refining divine stones, as well as the warehouse and living quarters. Half an hour ago, several underground mines exploded and destroyed more than half of the Profound Light Cave. This flat land was also affected, and huge cracks appeared on the ground. Many houses collapsed and the workshop was damaged. Hundreds of miners and craftsmen were seriously injured. The entrance to the underground mines was blocked by a large amount of earth and rocks, and smoke kept rising. At the time of the explosion, there were thousands of miners working in the 12 underground mines. There were also hundreds of Qi family guards supervising the work in the mines. Mines number 9, number 7, number 3 and number 1 exploded at the same time, causing the collapse of all 4 mines. More than 300 miners and dozens of guards were killed on the spot. Even their corpses were buried deep in the mines by the dust and rocks. There were also dozens of miners and guards who were lucky enough to survive. But they were all seriously injured, and were still trapped in the blocked mines, waiting for rescue in despair and helplessness. The entire Profound Light Cave was in chaos. 2 deacons led 200 guards and miners to dig out the blocked mine entrance and try to rescue the injured in the mines. The mining work had stopped, Everyone was involved in the excavation and rescue work. They were very busy. Under such circumstances, the defensive power of the profound light cave was extremely weak. It was practically non-existent. But at this moment, the originally clear sky was suddenly covered by dark clouds. A black cloud thousands of miles wide came from the south and stopped in the sky above Profound Light Island. The surging black clouds carried an enormous pressure as they enveloped the entire Profound Light Island. A sharp and bloody killing intent spread from the black cloud and lingered in the hearts of countless people. Immediately, everyone felt their hearts grow heavy. They had a bad feeling. They were suppressed to the point that they had difficulty walking, breathing, and circulating. Their divine power was not smooth. Countless people looked up at the sky and stared warily at the black cloud. Then, everyone saw hundreds of black-clothed people fly out of the black cloud. End of chapter. Chapter 2852. Swish. 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 Nearly 100 black-clothed experts flew out of the black clouds. Like dumplings, they fell from the sky and landed around the mystic light cave. Those black-clothed experts were clearly well-trained. In a short span of 10 breaths, they occupied the key positions around the mystic light cave. They formed a huge circle, surrounding the mystic light cave. Only 10 black-clothed people were left in the sky above the mystic light cave. The two people in the lead both had divine Lord realm strength. Their auras were majestic and domineering. One was more than 10 feet tall, built like an iron tower with palms as large as fans. This person wore a loose black robe and a bronze ghost mask. He had a head of white hair that reached his shoulders. This white-haired divine lord was clearly the leader of the group. Not only was his aura the strongest, but his divine power aura was also filled with killing and bloody aura. Standing beside him was a short and fat middle-aged man. This person also wore a black robe and a black iron mask, unable to see his anger. Under the mask, only a pair of small squinted eyes were revealed, flickering with a sharp cold light. Apart from these two divine lord experts, there were still 8 black-clothed experts behind them. Their strength had all reached the 8th level of the celestial god realm. These people's actions were neat and uniform. Their entire bodies were filled with strong killing intent. It was obvious that they were elites who had undergone special training. The black clouds pressed down. The encirclement was complete. The invisible pressure of the divine array already enveloped the mystic light cave. The mystic light cave, which was originally noisy, immediately quieted down. Everyone stopped trying to rescue. They all drew their weapons and quickly formed a formation, assuming a defensive posture. The two deacons' faces were gloomy, showing anxiety and worry in their eyes. The two stepped into the sky, facing off with the 10 black-clothed people 1,000 feet away from them. Although the other party came menacingly, and was led by 2 divine lord experts, these 2 deacons were extremely worried, but on the surface they could maintain calm. After all, they were both Qi Tianlong's cousins, direct descendants of the Qi family. In the past 200 years, they had personally experienced the development of the Qi family, and also experienced countless storms. Even if the two of them were not as smart and capable as Qi Tianlong, they would not disgrace the Qi family. The Grand Deacon looked at the 2 black-robed divine emperors and cupped his hands. "I am Qi Tianxing, the Grand Deacon of the Qi family." The second deacon also cupped his hands and bowed. "I am Qi Tianchan, the second deacon of the Qi family." After exchanging greetings, Qi Tianxing said in a low voice, "Everyone, this is Profound Light Island. According to the agreement of the 6 great clans, our Qi clan has won the martial competition. For the next 10 years, Profound Light Island will be our Qi clan's property, and no one will be allowed to invade it." Qi Tianxin continued, "No matter where you come from or what your purpose is, please abide by the agreement and think twice before you act." Just now there was an accident in the Profound Light Cave. There was a collapse. We are trying our best to treat the wounded and unblock the tunnel. At this juncture we don't have the time or energy to entertain you. Therefore, no matter what business you have, please leave Profound Light Island. The interactions between the aristocratic families were always so complicated and hypocritical. Even though the two of them clearly knew that someone had deliberately blown up the Profound Light Cave to create chaos, This group of black-clad men before Xiao Qian did not come with good intentions. They wanted to take this opportunity to snatch the profound light cave. However, they could not say it out loud. They could only express their attitude in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing, hoping that the other party would retreat. Even though the possibility of the other party leaving Profound Light Island was zero, the white-haired Divine Emperor, who was the leader, narrowed his turbid eyes. He stared at the two deacons, his withered old hands behind his back. He grinned coldly and said, "Ha! Two immature brats, things have already come to this and you still want to play dumb? Don't you know why this old man has brought people here?" Hearing this, the two deacons frowned. They secretly gripped the hilts of their swords, accumulating divine power in their bodies. On the flat ground below, hundreds of guards, craftsmen, and miners also gripped their weapons, ready to fight at any time. The white-haired Divine Emperor directly ignored everyone's vigilance. He looked at the two deacons with sharp eyes and said in a dignified tone, "You are both smart people. This old man doesn't want to waste my breath. If you don't want to be buried here, then obediently give up on the Profound Light Cave and leave this place. You should know that the Profound Light Cave is a treasure land that your Qi clan can't encroach on." As soon as his voice trailed off, he unleashed an earth-shattering amount of Qi that headed towards the two attendants. Puff! The two deacons' expressions changed. They immediately bent over and blood spurted out of their noses and mouths. They were only at the 9th level of the divine realm. How could they resist the pressure of a divine emperor? Without even lifting a finger, the other party had caused them to suffer internal injuries. What kind of valiant strength was this? Even so, the two deacons stubbornly held their heads high and refused to back down. 70 years ago, it was our Qi clan who discovered this treasure land. Now we have won the martial arts competition and rightfully own this treasure land. Why should we give it away? Although you are divine emperors and we are no match for you, we are still Qi clan members. However, we are the disciples of the Qi clan. Even if we die here, we will not back down. Qi Tianqing and Qi Tianqin's sonorous and resolute tones spread throughout the entire mine. Hundreds of guards, craftsmen, and miners of the Qi clan all held their heads high and stood together against a common enemy. At this moment, the short and fat divine emperor in a black robe sneered and said, "Qi Tianqing, Qi Tianqin, you two brothers are quite courageous. Unfortunately, it's useless no matter how courageous you are. Whoever's fist is bigger will own this treasure land. Let me give you one last piece of advice. If you don't leave this place, you will all be turned into ashes." The man's voice was very unpleasant. It sounded like the cry of a male duck. Qi Tianqing and Qi Tianqin were stunned for a moment. Their expressions changed drastically as they shouted angrily, "Lu Jiucheng! It's you, you bastard! Lu Jiucheng! How can you be so despicable?" Obviously, the short and fat divine emperor in a black robe was the head of the Lu clan, Lu Jiucheng. Now that he had the backing of the Bloodsword sect, he was flushed with success, and his ego was inflated. Even though he was wearing a black robe and a mask to disguise himself as a member of the Bloodsword sect, he didn't bother to change his voice, which was why the Qi brothers recognized him. Anyway, he was confident that victory was in his hands. Today, there was the 4th elder of the Bloodsword sect and 30 disciples of the Bloodsword sect. Together with the 70 experts of the Lu clan, it was enough to crush the Qi clan and take over the Dark Light Cave easily. Lu Jiucheng was exposed in public, but he didn't feel embarrassed or deny it. He looked at the two deacons with a smile and said coldly, "So what if it's me? This is a world where the strong prey on the weak. The Qi clan is weak, but you want to take control of the Dark Light Cave and use it to soar into the sky? After today, the Qi clan will be turned into ashes and will cease to exist. Kneel down and surrender now and be my dogs. Maybe you can save your lives." Chapter 2853. Lu Jiucheng, you bastard! You'll die a horrible death. Even if we die, we won't bow down to you. Qi Tianqing and Qi Tianqin were enraged, and their killing intent soared to the sky. Lu Jiucheng sneered disdainfully. The white-haired divine lord didn't want to waste any more time. He shouted, "Since you insist on dying, I'll fulfill your wish." As soon as he finished speaking, He raised his left palm and struck out a 5-colored palm shadow towards the 2 deacons. His right hand formed a seal and sent out a blood-colored fist light towards the entrance of the mine. Bang! Boom! The white-haired Divine Lord's fist light and palm shadow didn't hit the 2 deacons, the guards, and the craftsmen below the cliff. This was because the mystic light cave was protected by a monarch-grade divine array. A 5-colored light barrier with a radius of 100 miles covered the empty space below the cliff and the entrance to the mine. The palm shadow and fist radiance collided with the grand formation, causing an earth-shattering boom to erupt. Fragments of divine light burst out and filled the sky. The entire mystic light island trembled violently, and huge waves rose from the surrounding sea. 2 cracks appeared on the huge 5-colored light barrier, and countless cracks extended in all directions. Although the Chi family members inside the light barrier weren't injured, they were still trembling. But everyone was shaken to the point that they staggered left and right, letting out anxious cries. Qi Tianxing and Qi Tunshan hurriedly gave orders. Everyone worked together to support the defensive array. Go all out to stop the bastards of the Lu family and the Blood Sword sect. As the 2 shouted, they led a large number of guards, craftsmen, and miners to inject divine power into the defensive array. They clenched their teeth and held on. The 2 cracks on the light barrier quickly healed as the defensive array was replenished. Seeing this, the white-haired Divine Lord sneered disdainfully. A mantis trying to stop a chariot. He raised his palms again, forming a mysterious divine art, and unleashing his ultimate skill. Blood Sword slashes the heavens. When the white-haired Sir God's divine power was accumulated to the peak, he let out a loud bellow. He slammed his palms down, and a 3,000-meter-long blood-colored sword appeared in the sky. The giant crimson sword slashed toward the 5-colored light barrier with the power to split open the heavens. Boom! A deafening explosion erupted, resounding through the heavens and spreading for tens of thousands of miles. A 3-meter-long and 3-meter-wide gap appeared on the sturdy and thick multicolored light barrier. Around the gap, dense cracks extended out. Lu Jiuchong immediately became spirited and shouted excitedly, "Everyone, listen to my order. Attack the defensive formation with all your power." The hundreds of black-clothed experts around the cliff waved their divine weapons and used all kinds of secret techniques to attack the 5-colored light shield. Bang bang bang. Rumble. Divine art shadows that blotted out the sky poured down like raindrops, smashing onto the 5-colored light shield. Lu Jiuchong didn't stay idle either. His hands formed a divine art as he used a secret technique. 5-colored giant swords fell from the sky like meteors and crashed into the defensive formation. Boom! Dong dong dong! Under the leadership of Lu Jiuchong and the white-haired God Lord, all the black-robed men attacked crazily. How could the monarch-level divine formation protecting the mystic light cave withstand such a fierce attack? In the blink of an eye, the 5-colored light shield within 100 miles was riddled with holes and cracks. In the end, the white-haired God Lord used his secret technique again and slashed out 2 heaven-splitting blood blades. With a loud bang, the 5-colored light shield couldn't withstand the attack and exploded on the spot. An incomparably violent shockwave exploded at the bottom of the cliff, sweeping out for hundreds of miles. Suddenly, hundreds of disciples of the Qi family were blown away and fell to the ground with blood spurting out. They let out painful screams. Even Qi Tianxing and Qi Tianshan were bleeding from their 7 orifices and fell from the sky into the ruins. Ha ha ha, the defensive formation is broken. Everyone attack. Kill everyone in the Qi clan. Don't even leave a chicken or dog alive. Lu Jiuchong laughed proudly as he raised his arms and gave the order to attack. The hundreds of black-clothed experts around the cliff all shouted excitedly as they waved their weapons and attacked the mystic light cave below. The white-haired Divine Lord stood proudly in the sky as he looked down at everyone with an indifferent expression. He had a dignified posture as if he despised all living beings. The defensive formation was broken and the Qi family had no power to resist anymore. There was no need for him to do anything. Lu Jiuchong and the hundreds of black-clothed experts could kill all the disciples of the Qi family and quickly occupy the mystic light cave. Of course, it was the best time for the white-haired God Lord to show off. However, just as the black-clothed experts were cheering and attacking with murderous intent, the members of the Qi family were full of despair and they shouted angrily, A black shadow that blotted out the sun suddenly fell from the sky and smashed into the cliff with a boom. The earth-shattering sound made everyone feel dizzy and their blood was in a mess. The entire island was shaken to the point of bouncing up and down, creating countless ravines. Huge waves that were hundreds of feet high rose up from the surrounding sea, surging to the heavens. In an instant, the 100 miles of flat land under the cliff and the entrance of the mine were covered by the black shadow. The hundreds of black-clothed men, the white-haired god lord, Lu Jiuchong and the 8 elites were all blocked. Everyone subconsciously stopped attacking and frowned as they looked at the black shadow. It was a pitch-black colossus that was over 10,000 feet tall. It had 9 floors and 8 corners, revealing an ancient and powerful aura. It was also emitting a supreme power that could suppress the world and overlook thousands of worlds. It was a pitch-black and mysterious ancient pagoda. Although the defensive formation of the mystic light cave was broken, this divine tower replaced the formation and covered the entrance of the mine, protecting all the disciples of the Qi family. The white-haired god lord immediately frowned and his eyes became serious. Black Tower. Is this a monarch-level or a king-level divine weapon? Lu Jiuchong's expression changed drastically. He stared at the black divine tower with his mouth agape. His eyes were filled with shock. Whose divine tower is this? Why did it suddenly appear to save the mystic light cave? Qi Tianlong? No, Qi Tianlong doesn't have such a divine weapon. Besides, Qi Tianlong is still in the Tianfeng city. He can't make it back in time. The hundreds of black-clothed experts were also stunned. They stopped in the sky and looked at the mysterious black tower. They were all confused and looked at each other. After a while, the trembling island finally calmed down. The dust that covered the sky also dissipated. The black divine pagoda was still standing there, motionless, and not a single person could be seen. The people of the Qi family had disappeared, and there was no movement in the mystic light cave. The white-haired god lord and Lu Jiuchong couldn't hold back their doubts and started to send people to check. It's just a broken tower. Don't worry. Just destroy it. Lu Jiuchong waved his sleeve and gave an order. Then the 70 black-clothed experts of the Lu family waved their swords and used their secret divine powers to attack the divine tower. Bang 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 bang. The divine light shadows that blotted out the sky bombarded the divine tower one after another, causing a deafening explosion. But the divine tower didn't move and there wasn't even a trace left. Chapter 2854. Boom! The surging 5-colored divine flames formed a destructive shockwave that swept through the area within a radius of 1,000 miles. Over 100 black-clothed experts couldn't dodge or block in time, and were hit by the 5-colored divine flames. Only the sound of pong 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 was heard, and everyone was sent flying. More than 50 experts were instantly burned to ashes by the 5-colored divine flame. They died silently. The remaining 40 or so experts were also burned to ashes. Their bodies curled up and fell into the surrounding ruins. Their bodies were burned and their godheads were heavily damaged, but they were lucky enough to survive. Scattered in the surrounding ruins, they let out miserable wails and rolled on the ground in pain. Without a doubt, these people were crippled and no longer had the ability to fight. Only the white-haired divine lord, Lu Jiuchong, and the 8 elite experts had retreated in advance and escaped this disaster. Seeing this scene, everyone's scalp went numb, and they revealed an incomparably shocked expression. What kind of divine weapon is this? It's actually so strong. A supreme-grade monarch-grade divine weapon? And a low-grade king-grade divine weapon? The white-haired divine lord's eyes widened and he revealed a look of deep shock. Ah! The elite disciples of my Lu family were all killed in an instant. Lu Jiuchong screamed crazily, his heart bleeding. In order to join the Blood Sword sect and divide the benefits of the profound light cave, he had done his best without holding back. He had mobilized all the outstanding disciples of the Lu family to gather these 70 people, and disguised them as disciples of the Blood Sword sect. He had thought that it would be easy to take the profound light cave with the Blood Sword sect. But he had never imagined that all the disciples of the Lu family would be killed in the blink of an eye. Even if things went smoothly and he could take the profound light cave and get 20% of the benefits, it couldn't make up for the loss. If all the outstanding disciples of the Lu family died, They would soon be eliminated and become a mediocre family. Thinking of this, Lu Jiucheng was so angry that he almost went berserk. However, he had seen the terror of the divine pagoda with his own eyes and didn't dare to act rashly. He could only look at the white-haired divine lord and ask for help. Fourth elder, this divine pagoda is strange, you see. The white-haired divine lord stared at the divine pagoda with a burning gaze and bellowed, "Everyone back off." Lu Jiucheng was relieved of a heavy burden. He hurriedly brought the 8 elite experts and retreated 200 miles into the sky. The white-haired divine monarch slowly raised his palms and activated all his power. He struck out 2 gigantic blood-red claws that blotted out the sky and the sun, grabbing at the black divine pagoda. Bang! Bang! With a muffled sound, 2 giant blood-red claws grabbed the black divine tower from both sides. Rise! The white-haired divine lord roared angrily as he raised his palms. He wanted to use his supreme divine power to uproot the mysterious black tower and move it away. However, the mysterious black tower stood in place, not moving at all. It was as if it had taken root and connected with the entire island. I refuse to believe that I can't move this divine pagoda. The white-haired divine monarch bellowed and spat out a mouthful of blood. He had used a secret technique to increase his strength, instantly increasing it by 50%. Bang! He let out another ferocious roar, erupting with earth-shattering power. However, the divine pagoda remained motionless. The white-haired divine monarch's face flushed red. It was useless even if he pushed his power to the limit. At this moment, the divine pagoda suddenly flashed with black light and launched a counterattack. Kaboom! There was a loud and clear explosion. The 2 giant blood-red claws suddenly collapsed, exploding into blood-red fragments that filled the sky, splashing in all directions. Bang bang! Bang bang! Billions of blood-red fragments hit the surrounding cliffs and mountain peaks. Suddenly, the mountain peaks within a radius of 200 miles were flattened. The mysterious black light spread out and also sent the white-haired divine monarch flying. He tumbled and flew 100 miles away, crashing into a collapsed mountain peak and was buried by endless soil. When he struggled to climb out, his hair was disheveled and his face was covered in blood. He was in an extremely sorry state. Puff! The white-haired divine monarch spat out a mouthful of blood. He covered his chest and coughed for a long time before gradually recovering and flying back into the sky. Lu Jiucheng and the 8 experts quickly surrounded him, looking at him with concern and asking about the situation. Fourth elder, how are your injuries? Fourth elder, are you okay? The white-haired divine monarch waved his hand, indicating that everyone did not need to worry. Why are you panicking? This kind of injury is nothing to this old man, he shouted with a dignified expression, full of energy. But just as he finished speaking, he could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Obviously, his internal organs had been injured by the mysterious black light, and his injuries were somewhat severe. The 8 elite experts were all true disciples of the Blood Sword sect. They were still calm, silently guarding the white-haired divine monarch. Lu Jiucheng's heart was in a mess. He was angry and anxious and asked in a trembling voice, Fourth elder, where did this divine tower come from? Why is it protecting the mysterious light cave? Did a high-level divine monarch make a move? What should we do? A single mysterious black tower had caused heavy casualties, and even the 4th elder had suffered heavy injuries. If the owner of this divine tower was really a high-level divine monarch, the consequences would be unimaginable. Not only would they not be able to seize the mysterious light cave, but they would also be trapped here and wiped out. When he thought of this, Lu Jiucheng already had some thoughts of retreating. The 4th elder saw through his thoughts and glanced at him coldly. He said in a deep voice, if anything happens, this old man will take care of it. What are you panicking for? If you are afraid, then hurry up and scram. The Blood Sword sect was high and mighty, and the 4th elder's status was revered. He originally looked down on small characters like the Lu family, and now that he was seriously injured, he had a belly full of anger. Of course, he would not be nice to Lu Jiucheng. Lu Jiucheng was scolded until he was embarrassed. He hurriedly squeezed out a smile and said apologetically, 4th elder, please calm down. This Lu is loyal to the Blood Sword sect. How can I abandon you? This Lu is just worried. The fourth elder said expressionlessly, there is nothing to worry about. This divine tower is strong, but it protects the mysterious light cave and will not attack. As for high-level divine monarchs, if such an expert really made a move, he would have shown himself long ago. Hearing this, Lu Jiucheng was much more at ease. He stared at the divine tower and nodded. That's right. This divine tower's appearance is strange. It is only guarding the mysterious light cave, but no one has appeared. As long as we don't attack it, it doesn't seem to take the initiative to attack. The fourth elder nodded slightly. Don't blindly attack the divine tower anymore. Treat the injured first and meditate to recover. This old man wants to study it properly and see what is going on with this divine tower. Understood. Lu Jiucheng nodded and hurriedly flew to the nearby ruins to treat the Lu family disciples who were on the verge of death. The 8 elite experts also spread out to rescue the injured Blood Sword sect disciples. The fourth elder sat cross-legged in the air and consumed a divine pill to treat his injuries. He had already made up his mind. After treating his injuries, he would think of a way to deal with the mysterious Black Tower. If possible, he would take the mysterious Black Tower for himself. Chapter 2855. In fact, the fourth elder was right. The person controlling the divine tower wasn't a high-level divine lord. In fact, he wasn't even a divine lord. Because this divine tower was the Jiutian Ten Absolutes Tower. When the Blood Sword sect and the Lu family attacked the Mystic Light Cave, Ji Tianqing finally arrived. He knew that even if he, Yunyao, Ji Ku and the others went all out, they wouldn't be able to stop the attacks of the Blood Sword sect and the Lu family. Once the battle started, the Qi family would definitely suffer heavy casualties. He, Yunyao, Ji Ku and the others weren't a match for the fourth elder, so they would definitely be injured. So, he changed his mind at the last minute. He asked Ji Ku to control the Jiutian Ten Absolutes Tower to cover the entire Mystic Light Cave, and keep the Blood Sword sect and the Lu family outside. With the Jiutian Ten Absolutes Tower's defense, even 10 divine lords wouldn't be able to break through. The Mystic Light Cave was safe. Meanwhile, inside the Jiutian Ten Absolutes Tower, Ji Ku was sitting on the Fei God altar in the Origin Divine Array on the 5th level. Her eyes were closed and her hands were forming a seal to control the divine tower. 5-colored divine flames surrounded her body and gave off a mysterious and powerful energy, making her seem unfathomable. On the 1st level of the divine tower, in the dark hall, Yunyao, Bai Long and the others were saving the Qi family members. When the Mystic Light Cave's defense array was destroyed and the Lu family and the Blood Sword sect attacked, the Qi family members were filled with despair. Qi Tianqing and Qi Tianchen, who had sustained heavy injuries, were also prepared to die together with the Blood Sword sect disciples, as if they were facing death calmly. But at that moment the Jiutian Ten Absolutes Tower fell from the sky. The desperate Qi family members were instantly taken into the divine tower and out of danger. Only then did the Qi family members come back to their senses. They were in an unfamiliar environment and were a little panicked and worried at first. Everyone gathered together, vigilantly guarding their surroundings. Qi Tianqing and Qi Tianchen were the backbone of the group, so they were able to remain calm. Under their orders, the Qi family guards, craftsmen and miners gradually calmed down. Then Ji Tianqing, Yunyao and the others appeared. When everyone saw Ji Tianqing's appearance, they were suddenly enlightened. Their hanging hearts were finally at ease. Everyone revealed a joyful expression after surviving a calamity, and bowed to Ji Tianqing to express their gratitude. Ji Tianqing comforted everyone with a few words, telling them not to worry, and to focus on recuperating. With the protection of the Divine Pagoda, the profound light cave was safe. No matter how strong the Blood Sword sect and the Lu family were, they couldn't invade the profound light cave. However, everyone had to stay in the Divine Pagoda for a while. Ji Tianqing wanted to enter the profound light cave, clean up the collapsed ruins, and rescue the trapped wounded. Only after dealing with this matter would he be able to deal with the Blood Sword sect and the Lu family. Everyone in the Qi clan trusted and respected him, so they naturally had no objections. Hence, those who were injured stayed on the 1st level of the Divine Pagoda to recuperate. The uninjured guards, craftsmen, and miners followed him into the profound light cave. He used the laws of earth and divine abilities and secret techniques to quickly clear up the collapsed ruins. The entrance of the profound light cave was cleared and everyone hurriedly entered the underground mine. Next, Ji Tianqing led everyone in the Qi clan to clean up the 4 collapsed mines. A large amount of earth and rocks were cleared out, and the collapsed mines were cleared up. The wounded and corpses buried in the ruins were also rescued by everyone. In a short hour, the cleaning and rescue work was completed. Originally, according to the Qi clan's estimation, this work would take at least 2 days to complete. However, Ji Tianqing only needed an hour to settle the matter. This was simply an inconceivable miracle. Everyone's respect and worship for Ji Tianqing reached the peak. After everything was ready, Ji Tianqing ordered everyone in the Qi clan to clean up the mines and wrap up the work. He went to the 9th mine alone to investigate the divine crystal vein. The 9th mine was very ordinary and unremarkable. In the 13th year of the city lord's mansion's control of the profound light cave, they had excavated this mine. So far, this mine had been excavated for 57 years. The craftsmen and miners of the city lord's mansion only found 3 ordinary divine crystal veins in this mine. Divine crystal veins were supreme treasures that no one dared to imagine. Not long after the Qi clan took over the profound light cave, Ji Tianqing came to inspect the mines and remove the hidden dangers left by the city lord's mansion. When he inspected the 9th mine, he didn't find anything unusual. But now, as soon as he entered the 9th mine, he sensed an extremely rich divine power aura surging out of the mine. The mine with a radius of 10 miles was filled with extremely rich divine power. Even the air was filled with wisps of 5-colored divine power. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing's figure flashed and flew into the depths of the mine, arriving at a mine with a radius of 10,000 feet. He remembered very clearly that this mine was only 3,000 feet wide and less than 1,000 feet deep. But now the mine was more than 3 times larger and more than 3,000 feet deep. There were no traces of excavation at the edge of the mine. It was all torn open by violence. Obviously, the people of the city lord's mansion buried a divine light bomb here. After the explosion, not only did the 9th mine collapse, but it also blasted out a large amount of divine crystal ores. Ji Tianqing looked down at the mine and observed with shining eyes. There was a huge divine stone vein in the mine, which was full of rough and ordinary divine stone ores. However, among the countless coarse ores, there were dense multicolored crystals. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing came to a sudden realization. I see. No wonder the people of the city lord's mansion didn't find any divine crystals after excavating for more than 50 years. I didn't expect this mine to be even deeper underground, with a large number of divine crystals wrapped in ordinary ores. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and shot out several beams of divine light, striking at several ordinary ores. Crack! Crack! With a few cracking sounds, 6 basin-sized ores were torn apart. Suddenly, more than a dozen walnut-sized 5-colored divine crystals burst out of the ores and scattered on the ground. Ji Tianqing picked up those divine crystals and used the devouring divine ability to quickly devour the power of the divine crystals. After a while, more than a dozen divine crystals disappeared. The heaven-mending orb left half of its divine power and transferred the other half to him. He was surprised to find that these divine crystals were very pure, and their divine power was incomparably pure. There were almost no impurities, and during the process of devouring and refining, there would be no waste. The Qi family is really lucky, Ji Tianqing murmured and revealed a smile. He didn't waste any more time and hurriedly landed at the bottom of the mine and sat cross-legged on the mine. He began to circulate his energy and used the devouring divine ability. His palms emitted black light, and 2 pitch-black vortexes appeared, pressing on the mine. Swoosh! A powerful devouring power immediately enveloped the mine and crazily absorbed the power of the mine. Whether it was the power of ordinary divine stones or 5-colored divine crystals, they were all devoured by his palms and poured into the heaven-mending orb. After being purified by the heaven-mending orb, half of the power entered his body, helping him quickly increase his strength. In a short span of 2 hours, his strength had doubled. Chapter 2856. Ordinary veins mixed with large amounts of divine crystals were indeed powerful. In the past, Ji Tianqing would need a few hours to double his strength after devouring ordinary veins. Now, it only took him 2 hours to double his strength. Even he himself was surprised and incredulous by such an exaggerated speed of improvement. Time passed quietly, and the devouring continued. With every 2 hours that passed, his strength would increase by 1-fold. Half a day later, his strength had increased by 6 times. But this was only the beginning. He continued to devour, and his strength continued to increase. The divine power contained in the veins was as vast as the sea, as if it was endless. Ji Tianqing was intoxicated by the wonderful feeling of rapidly increasing his strength, and forgot about the passage of time. Unknowingly, an entire day passed. His strength had increased by 12 times. If it was an ordinary vein, its strength would definitely be weakened by several times. If the Qi family's craftsmen and mine workers were slightly more attentive, they would be able to detect some clues. However, this vein contained a large amount of divine crystals. After being devoured for an entire day, his strength did not decrease significantly. Previously, he had planned to stabilize at the peak of the heavenly god realm for a while. However, this was a rare and excellent opportunity. If he missed this opportunity, who knew when he would be able to encounter it again? Therefore, he did not care so much. First, he would devour the energy of the vein and increase his strength. Moreover, Lu Jiuchong and the fourth elder of the Blood Sword sect were still outside the Divine Tower, and they were still guarding it. Every 4 to 6 hours, they would use different methods to probe and attack the Divine Tower. Ji Tianqing only wanted to increase his strength as soon as possible, and become strong enough to deal with them. It had been 2 days since the Divine Tower descended. On the first floor of the Divine Tower, after 2 days of rest, the Qi family members' injuries had stabilized. Even Qi Tianqing and Qi Tianqin's injuries had healed greatly. Everyone gathered together and whispered to each other. It's been 2 days. Why is there no movement outside at all? Yeah, it's been 2 days. I wonder if the Blood Sword sect and the Lu family have left? Tianqing hasn't shown up for 2 days. What is he doing? I heard that Tianqing has not come out since he entered the mine. I heard from the guards that the collapsed mine and ruins have long been cleaned up. The injured miners and guards have also been rescued. That's strange. Since the matter in the mine has been resolved, why hasn't Tianqing made a move yet? The people of the Blood Sword sect and the Lu family definitely won't leave so easily. Are we just going to waste time like this? Let's go find the first deacon and second deacon and see what they have to say. Thus, the guards and craftsmen discussed and decided to ask the 2 deacons about the situation. Soon, Qi Tianqing and Qi Tianqin were surrounded by dozens of guards and craftsmen. Faced with the doubts and questions of the crowd, the 2 brothers were unable to answer and could only try their best to appease them. In the end, they had no choice but to look for Yunyao and by long Madam Consecrator. Could you please ask Lord Consecrator when we can leave? Master Consecrator is in mine number 9. He ordered that no one is to disturb him. We don't know what Master Consecrator is doing. Now that the guards, craftsmen and miners are waiting anxiously, it's hard for us to explain. After hearing this, Bai Long turned his head to look at Yunyao, revealing a trace of an inexplicable smile, and transmitted his voice. Mistress, I told you that these people are troublesome. When Master saved them, they were all grateful and kowtowed to thank him. Now that their lives are no longer in danger, they became suspicious when Master didn't show up for 2 days. Haha. After all, they're outsiders and don't trust us enough. Yunyao nodded slightly and transmitted her voice. It's just a small matter. Don't worry about it. Tianqing doesn't plan to stay here for long anyway. We're only helping the Qi family because the father and son of the Qi family are good friends, and we're also getting some benefits. To put it simply, Ji Tianqing and Qi Huanji were friends. The relationship with the Qi family was more of a mutually beneficial one. Yunyao looked at Qi Tianqing and Qi Tianqin and said calmly, "Please don't be impatient. Just let everyone wait here. Since Tianqing has given the order, just do as he says. You can't do anything to deal with the Blood Sword sect and Lu family, so don't worry." Qi Tianqing and Qi Tianqin were a little embarrassed, but they couldn't refute and could only nod. They couldn't blame others for looking down on them. After all, they were too weak. The only thing they could do now was to appease the Qi family and continue waiting. Outside the Divine Tower, after 2 days of treatment and recuperation, more than 40 black-clad experts were saved. The mysterious black light from the Divine Tower had burned their bodies and damaged their godheads. Now their physical bodies had been destroyed, and their godheads were severely damaged. Even if they survived, they were no longer qualified to participate in the battle. Only the fourth elder, Lu Jiuchong, and 8 elite disciples of the Blood Sword sect still had the strength to fight. The 8 black-clad elites with divine swords were scattered around the Divine Tower, monitoring the entire island. Once someone approached the island, they would be the first to discover it. The fourth elder and Lu Jiuchong stood in the sky, staring at the Divine Tower with a serious expression. After a while, the fourth elder was still in deep thought, not saying a word. Lu Jiuchong couldn't suppress the anxiety in his heart and asked in a low voice, "Fourth elder, it's been 2 days and we've tried more than 20 methods. However, this Divine Tower is as solid as a tortoise shell, without any flaws. We can't do anything about it. We can't go on like this. In 2 days at most, Qi Tianlong will return to Qingshan City. At that time, he will definitely lead a large number of experts to reinforce the profound light cave." Before he could finish, the fourth elder interrupted him and said in a deep voice, "What's there to be afraid of? Just the Qi family. Even if Qi Tianlong comes, this old man will still kill him." Lu Jiuchong choked and didn't say anything else. He finally understood. The Blood Sword sect was determined to get the profound light cave, and they would do anything to get it. At this time, the fourth elder ordered in a deep voice, "Lu Jiuchong, our way of thinking is wrong. The grade of this Divine Tower should be beyond the monarch grade. It's very likely a king grade artifact. No matter what method we use, it's impossible to break it." King grade artifact? Lu Jiuchong's eyes widened in surprise, and a trace of excitement and greed flashed in his eyes. However, he immediately suppressed his greed and didn't dare to show the slightest bit. He was very clear that no matter how tempting a king grade artifact was, he didn't have the qualifications to touch it. The Blood Sword sect would never let go of this king-grade Divine Tower. Anyone who dared to snatch it would be ruthlessly crushed by the Blood Sword sect. Dispelling the idea, Lu Jiuchong lowered his head and asked, "Fourth elder, have you thought of another method?" The fourth elder nodded slightly and said, "We don't need to pay attention to this Divine Tower. We'll dive into the ground from the edge of the island, go 100 li underground and then sneak into the profound light cave. We'll definitely succeed." End of chapter. Chapter 2857. Lu Jiuchong was startled for a moment, then immediately revealed a look of understanding. "Fourth elder is wise. You are absolutely right. Our goal is the profound light cave, not this divine pagoda. Even if the divine pagoda seals the entrance, we can still sneak into the profound light cave from underground. As long as we enter the mine, the Qi family, without the protection of the divine pagoda, will soon be slaughtered by us." Fourth elder pointed at the more than 40 black-clothed experts and ordered, "Lu Jiuchong, you stay here with them. This old man and the 8 elite disciples will sneak into the ground." The more than 40 black-clothed experts had their bodies destroyed, and their godheads were also heavily damaged. Their fighting strength was very weak, and they could only barely make up the numbers. Lu Jiuchong wanted to refuse, but he thought about it again. He would stay above ground anyway. As long as they didn't attack the divine pagoda, there would be no danger, so he nodded and agreed. "This Lu will follow fourth elder's order. I hope you will be victorious." Fourth elder didn't say anything else. He took the 8 elite experts and was about to sneak into the ground. He had already used his divine sense to explore that the divine pagoda released a 5-colored light that covered a radius of 300 miles. As long as they went down 300 miles, they could find a gap or a passage to sneak into the profound light cave. Once they succeeded, they could quickly occupy the profound light cave. And the Qi family could only hide in the divine pagoda, not daring to show themselves. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! A burst of 5-colored light flashed. The fourth elder and the 8 elite experts landed in the ruins around the divine pagoda and drilled into the ground. Everyone used the 5 elemental laws to sneak into the depths of the ground without any obstruction. After a short 100 breaths, everyone had gone down 350 miles. This area was filled with indestructible rock layers and scattered God's stone veins. The fourth elder and the 8 experts extended their divine senses in all directions, carefully inspecting the situation underground. About 50 miles above their heads, there was a 5-colored barrier of divine light. That was the power of the divine pagoda. It was like a ball of light with a radius of 300 miles, protecting the entire profound light cave. However, many of the veins in the profound light cave were more than 300 miles long. Some veins were even thousands of miles long, extending in all directions. The fourth elder wanted to investigate those mineral veins and look for gaps and crevices in order to sneak into the profound light cave. This was a meticulous job that would take a long time. But the fourth elder was patient enough. Time passed silently. Otherwise, if he was hit by the 5-colored divine flame, even if he did not die, he would be seriously injured. Damn bastard! There was no movement for the past 2 days, but now there is a sudden attack. The person controlling this divine pagoda is too despicable, too insidious. Lu Jiuchong raised his sleeve to wipe the cold sweat on his forehead, cursing with resentment. As soon as his voice fell, a cold voice entered his ears. Bastard, give me your life. A dazzling sword light suddenly fell from the sky, slashing toward Lu Jiuchong. The dazzling golden sword light was more dazzling than the sun. Before the sword light arrived, the terrifying sword intent had already sealed off the area within 500 miles. Lu Jiuchong's heart trembled, and he hurriedly took out a treasure sword, slashing out sword lights that filled the sky. Bang bang bang. More than 35 colored sword lights, carrying the power of the 5 colored laws, slashed toward the giant sword. The sword lights collided, and a deafening explosion erupted. The 5 colored sword lights shattered, but the giant sword's power did not diminish, and it struck Lu Jiuchong. Although he had the divine light protecting him, and at the critical moment, he held the divine sword above his head with both hands. But he was still sent flying. The protective divine light collapsed, and he fell from the sky into the bottom of the sea, splashing up huge waves. Splash! When Lu Jiuchong rushed out of the sea and returned to the sky, his hair was disheveled, his face was pale, and blood was dripping from the corner of his mouth. He looked in front of him with resentment, locking onto the white figure in the sky. He saw that it was an 8-foot-tall, handsome young man in a white robe with black hair. His hands were behind his back, and his expression was arrogant. His entire body was filled with an invisible domineering aura. Seeing his face, Lu Jiuchong's eyes narrowed, and he exclaimed, "The Qi family's consecrator? It's actually you." Lu Jiuchong did not expect it. The person who attacked him and injured him with one move was actually the Qi family's consecrator. He clearly remembered that the Qi family's consecrator only had the strength of a heavenly god at the martial arts competition 20 days ago. And now the other party's strength had obviously increased by dozens of times. Chapter 2858. Even if he saw it with his own eyes, Lu Jiuchong also found it hard to believe. He could not see through Ji Tianqing's strength realm, but he was very certain that Ji Tianqing was absolutely a divine lord powerhouse. Furthermore, it was very likely that he was a middle-stage divine lord. Boyu, how did you do it? Lu Jiuchong stared at Ji Tianqing with a chest full of shock and asked in a solemn voice. Ji Tianqing looked at him expressionlessly and said with a cold smile, "Since you're terrified, don't make any more pointless struggles. Kneel down and accept death." As he said, he released an invisible divine might, sweeping over toward Lu Jiuchong. Immediately, Lu Jiuchong was suppressed until his complexion turned pale. A trace of fear welled up in his heart. Even though Ji Tianqing had yet to break through to the divine lord realm, but he devoured the divine crystal mineral vein's power for 3 days and 3 nights. Presently, his strength already reached 36 times of peak celestial deity. This was a realm that any celestial deity found hard to imagine. Even Lu Jiuzhong was shocked too, confirming that he was a middle-stage divine lord. Boy, don't be arrogant. Lu Jiuzhong gripped his divine sword tightly and said coldly in a threatening manner, even if this seat can't beat you, that senior can also kill you easily. Do you think that you helping the Qi family seize the profound light cave is a gargantuan merit? Too foolish. You brought a calamity to the Qi family. Ji Tianqing smiled coldly and said, looks like you're already dead set on being a lackey for the Blood Sword sect. That white-haired old man is the Blood Sword sect's fourth elder, right? Lu Jiuzhong was stunned for a bit and thought to himself, this bastard, not only did he recognize this seat, he even knows the fourth elder's identity? Could it be that he's the Divine Tower's owner? Previously, he hid inside the Divine Tower and secretly eavesdropped on our conversation. Thinking up to here, Lu Jiuzhong's two eyes surged with a brilliant light, his gaze becoming scorching and greedy. Boy, this Divine Tower is yours? His gaze stared at Ji Tianqing with a scorching gaze and asked in a solemn voice. Ji Tianqing frowned slightly and said, what do you want? Ha! Lu Jiuzhong suddenly raised his head and laughed loudly. He sighed emotionally as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Before this, I was worried that the person who had such a divine weapon was most likely a high divine lord. I didn't expect it to be you, you little bastard. Since that's the case, as long as I kill you, the Divine Pagoda will belong to me. The temptation of the Divine Pagoda dispelled Lu Jiuzhong's doubts and fears, and his heart burned with passion. Ji Tianqing's face was full of disdain as he shouted coldly, reckless fool. As soon as he finished speaking, he formed a divine art with both hands and activated all of his power to perform a supreme sword technique. Daylight Sword. With a cold shout, a blazing white halo flickered in the sky and disappeared. Lu Jiuzhong sensed the danger and immediately teleported away. Shua. His figure flashed and crossed 250 kilometers, appearing in the east of Profound Light Island. However, as soon as he steadied himself, a dazzling white light bloomed in front of him, bursting forth with destructive sword chi. Boom! A blazing white halo exploded in front of his chest, and a blazing white mushroom cloud rose. The white light covered the sky and covered 1,000 miles, so blinding that people couldn't open their eyes. Lu Jiuzhong's protective divine light directly collapsed, and his black robe was also twisted into countless cloth strips, and a large cloud of blood spurted out of his chest. He was caught off guard and was seriously injured by the Daylight Sword. Not only was there a wash-basin-sized bloody hole in his chest, but his internal organs were also blown to pieces, and blood gushed out wildly. Ah! The heart-wrenching pain made Lu Jiuzhong let out a shrill scream. The violent impact sent him flying, and he landed on the surface of the sea 100 miles away. In just one move, Lu Jiuzhong was seriously injured, and his body was on the verge of collapse. Ji Tianqing did not spare him, and took advantage of the victory to pursue. Shua! With a flash of light, he teleported to Lu Jiuzhong's side, holding the Burial of Heaven sword and slashing down fiercely. Sky-splitting sword. 1,000 feet long 5-colored sword light, carrying the power of 18 types of laws, drowned Lu Jiuzhong's figure. The world within a 3,000-mile radius was enveloped by divine light and sword chi, and it was dazzling. Lu Jiuzhong watched as the sword light fell, but he was suppressed to the point where he could not dodge, and his heart was filled with fear and despair. Kaboom! Another loud explosion rang out, shaking the universe. Lu Jiuzhong was hit by the giant sword, and he exploded into pieces on the spot, splashing out a cloud of blood. Even though his divine body had been tempered thousands of times and was extremely tough, even though he was a divine lord elite who had mastered more than a dozen divine Tao laws, all of this was useless in the face of the tyrannical heaven-splitting sword. He was so weak that he could not withstand a single blow, and he was killed instantly. Tens of thousands of pieces of flesh fell from the sky into the sea. Even his godhead was injured by the giant sword, and a few cracks appeared on it. As a result, his consciousness was hazy. He could not even control his godhead, let alone counterattack or escape. The godhead fell from the sky, flashing with 5-colored divine light, and fell into the sea. Then Ji Tianqing caught up again and slashed with his sword. Swish! The five-colored sword light shone and slashed at Lu Jiucheng's godhead again. Lu Jiucheng finally woke up. Seeing the sword light slashing at him, he was scared out of his wits, and an extreme desire to live burst out. He unleashed his divine power without holding back, forming a giant five-colored light shield to protect his godhead. Kaboom! The sword light slashed down and shattered the light shield. Lu Jiucheng's godhead was thrown away, and a few more cracks appeared on it, and his injuries became even more miserable. He was completely terrified, and he ran towards the south without caring about anything else. Swish! The godhead lit up with a bright divine light, dragging a long five-colored flame behind it as it streaked across the sky like a shooting star. He was still praying silently when he flew over Shuangguang Island. He hoped that the fourth elder would notice something and save him in time. Otherwise, he would not be able to escape Ji Tianqing's pursuit and would definitely die. At this moment, the fourth elder, who had been exploring underground, finally found something strange on the island. He immediately stopped searching and left the underground as fast as he could, flying over the island. Swish! A white light flashed and the fourth elder appeared in the sky. He saw the situation at a glance. Lu Jiucheng's godhead was flying over the island. 100 miles behind him, Ji Tianqing was chasing him with a sword. Seeing this, the fourth elder's eyes narrowed and flashed with murderous intent. Die, bastard! The fourth elder's voice was as loud as a bell. He raised both of his palms and punched towards Ji Tianqing. Seeing the fourth elder stop him, Lu Jiucheng was relieved and full of joy. He didn't dare to expect the fourth elder to be able to hurt Ji Tianqing. He only hoped that the fourth elder could stall Ji Tianqing so that he could have a chance to escape. However, Lu Jiucheng was destined to be happy for nothing. Ji Tianqing ignored the two giant palms of the fourth elder and moved 200 miles in an instant, appearing in front of Lu Jiucheng. The golden sword light rose again and slashed down with full force. Lu Jiucheng was caught off guard and crashed into it. Kaboom! There was a loud and clear explosion. Lu Jiucheng's godhead was shattered by the sword light on the spot, and 12 pieces splashed out and fell on the sea. At this point, Lu Jiucheng had completely died. Chapter 2859. Even though Ji Tianqing had teleported 200 li. However, the fourth elder's two palm shadows also crossed a distance of 200 miles and hit him with a loud bang. Bang! Bang! With a muffled sound, Ji Tianqing was sent flying. He retreated 50 miles before he managed to neutralize the impact and stopped in the sky. This time, the setting sun sank below the sea level, and the world became dark. Ji Tianqing and the fourth elder were 100 li apart, facing each other in the sky above the sea. The 8 elite disciples of the Blood Sword sect also spread out, forming a half-moon formation and surrounding Ji Tianqing. Both sides were seething with killing intent. The atmosphere was extremely solemn. Only the sound of wind and waves could be heard. The fourth elder coldly stared at Ji Tianqing and said, "You are the Qi family's consecrator?" "You already know," Ji Tianqing said expressionlessly. The fourth elder's voice was even colder. "Brat, you are very arrogant. But you are very stupid. With your strength and talent, you shouldn't have relied on the Qi family, let alone offend our sect." Ji Tianqing sneered. "From the moment I heard about the Blood Sword sect, everyone told me that the Blood Sword sect is one of the 6 great sects of the Divine Nation and is extremely powerful. But I didn't expect that the Blood Sword sect would covet a mere profound light cave so much that they would do anything to seize it. From this, it can be seen that the Blood Sword sect is only a sosa." The fourth elder was a bit angry. He frowned and shouted, "What do you know? How can you guess the value and significance of the profound light cave? Moreover, the profound light cave is not the only place our sect wants to control." Ji Tianqing thought for a moment, then nodded and said, "Indeed. A sinister and vicious evil sect like the Blood Sword sect would naturally plunder resources and treasures everywhere in order to maintain its power. But I'm very curious. For the past 70 years, the City Lord's mansion has been controlling the profound light cave. Even the City Lord's mansion didn't know about the astonishing wealth hidden in the profound light cave. How could the Blood Sword sect know about it?" The fourth elder was silent for a while before he sneered. "Brat, do you really want to know?" Ji Tianqing didn't say anything, which could be considered a tacit agreement. The fourth elder's smile became even more playful. All right, this old man will give you a chance. As long as you leave the Qi clan and join our sect, this old man will tell you the answer. Ji Tianqing sneered disdainfully. Ha ha ha. I disdain to associate myself with the beasts of the blood sword sect. The fourth elder was furious. His face was ashen and his eyes were spitting fire. Ji Tianqing continued, actually, you don't have to say much. I can guess it. It was most likely an expert of the blood sword sect who accidentally discovered the secret of the profound light cave. However, the profound light cave belonged to the city lord's mansion. The city lord's mansion was also a noble conferred by the theocracy, the city lord. Even if the blood sword sect was powerful enough to crush the city lord's mansion, the blood sword sect would still be able to do so. However, due to the divine nation's laws and face, the blood sword sect couldn't openly deal with the city lord's mansion. You can only endure and wait for the martial arts tournament that is held once every 10 years. Then, they will use the names of other aristocratic families to seize the profound light cave in a dignified manner. Ji Tianqing spoke with fervor and assurance, his words clear and organized. The fourth elder frowned as a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. Clearly Ji Tianqing's guess was correct. However, the fourth elder remained silent and didn't refute. Ji Tianqing continued, originally, your target was the Qi family. You wanted to seize the profound light cave in the name of the Qi family, and make the Qi family a puppet of the blood sword sect. However, you didn't expect that I would suddenly appear and spoil your plans. Even if you chose the Liu family and seized the profound light cave in the name of the Liu family, I still ruined it. Therefore, you flew into a rage out of humiliation and wanted to destroy the Qi family at all costs. After he finished speaking, the fourth elder couldn't help but applaud and praise. Wonderful. Kid, your intelligence and wisdom have made this old man have a whole new level of respect for you. A genius like you shouldn't waste your time in a small place like Qingshan City. This old man sincerely advises you not to waste your talent here and choose another master. After saying this, the fourth elder added, of course, this old man knows that you don't want to join the blood sword sect. However, the blood sword sect can recommend you to a wise master with great talent and foresight. Under that master's command, your talent will definitely be displayed. Ji Tianqing's lips curled into a playful smile as he said, if I'm not wrong, the master you speak of should be the backer of the blood sword sect. In the blood flame divine kingdom, someone who can be the backer of the blood sword sect. I think it's only someone from the divine kingdom's royal family, right? The fourth elder's eyes lit up and he was even more shocked. This matter was confidential and only the upper echelons of the blood sword sect knew about it. For Ji Tianqing to be able to deduce the answer was truly unbelievable. The fourth elder didn't answer directly and instead said in a dignified tone, Kid, since you already know the answer in your heart, this old man doesn't need to say more. You're a smart person and should know how to choose in order to benefit your future. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, that's right. Of course I know how to choose. If I do as you say and join that royal family's noble, I'll be able to do it. With my talent and methods, I'll definitely be able to shine brightly and overturn the rain in clouds. In just a few years, I'll be able to run amok in the blood flame divine kingdom and have great power. Hearing this, the fourth elder couldn't help but nod and reveal a gratified smile. Very good. You're really sensible. He thought that Ji Tianqing would agree. Unexpectedly, Ji Tianqing shook his head and said indifferently, it's a pity that a mere blood flame divine kingdom isn't worth my time and effort. The blood flame divine kingdom, and even the entire Great Yin Empire are just a small place in my eyes. Playing politics here is the real waste of time. Hearing this, the fourth elder's eyes widened in anger. He was both shocked and furious. The 8 elite disciples were also somewhat stunned and glared at Ji Tianqing. Little bastard, how dare you be so arrogant? The fourth elder came back to his senses and roared like thunder. Ji Tianqing laughed loudly and said, a summer insect can't talk about ice. How can a frog at the bottom of a well know the wind and clouds outside the sky? Fourth elder, this seat will send you on your way. Ji Tianqing formed a sword seal with his left hand and waved the sword of burial of heaven with his right hand. Sword light covered the sky. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Sword chi swept across 3,000 miles. Moon beyond the sky sinks into the sea. In that instant, the dazzling sword light illuminated the 3,000 miles of sky and sea, revealing every single detail. The fourth elder and the 8 elite disciples were shocked and tried their best to fight. The two sides engaged in a fierce battle above the sea. The sky was filled with sword light and saber shadows clashed, creating a loud explosion. The brilliance of divine spells that blotted out the sky and the sun intertwined with each other, blooming into the most gorgeous fireworks. Bam! 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 Boom! Boom! The loud sound reverberated, and divine power surged. Huge waves rolled up in a few thousand miles of sea, creating thunderous tsunamis. This battle was 10 times more intense than when Ji Tianqing killed Lu Jiucheng. The fourth elder was a middle-level divine lord, and an old monster who had cultivated for almost 10,000 years. He was extremely powerful and had a deep foundation. Ji Tianqing could only go all out and use all kinds of trump cards to be on par with him. Chapter 2860. A quarter of an hour passed. Ji Tianqing, the fourth elder, and the others had exchanged thousands of blows. The two sides were far away from Darklight Island, and the battlefield had shifted 20,000 miles to the east. The light and shadows of divine arts blotted out the sky, and the deafening explosions echoed in the sky. The violent and devastating shockwaves stirred up huge waves on the surface of the ocean for thousands of miles. The divine power of heaven and earth near the battlefield became abnormally violent and chaotic, and it was filled with dozens of laws. Ji Tianqing was fighting 1 against 9 and was surrounded. He had been in a perilous situation since the beginning of the battle. He could only use all his strength and use the celestial dragon tyrant body to erupt his power to the extreme. He used all kinds of divine arts, secret arts, and sword Dao techniques one after another without holding back. Because of this, his situation finally changed. 3 elite experts had been killed by him one after another, and there were no corpses left. 2 other experts were also seriously injured by him. They turned a blind eye to their injuries and continued to attack him fiercely. 10,000 swords return. When the fourth elder and the 5 experts attacked again, Ji Tianqing used his ultimate sword technique. Swish! 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 The burial of heaven swung and scattered thousands of sword lights, covering 3,000 miles of heaven and earth. Each 5-colored sword light contained 9 types of power of laws. The thousands of sword lights sealed the world, and the crisscrossing stabs swept out like a sword storm. Poof! Boom! A series of muffled sounds came out, and a large amount of blood splattered. The 2 seriously injured elite experts were killed on the spot by the sword lights and turned into a rain of blood. The remaining 3 experts were also enveloped by the sword lights, and their bodies were covered in wounds. In the blink of an eye, they were also seriously injured, and they cried out in pain and misery. Only the fourth elder reacted the fastest. He retreated to the edge in time and resisted the sword lights with all his strength. 3 breaths later, the 10,000 rays of sword light suddenly converged and condensed into 9 giant swords. They emitted 7-colored divine light and carried supreme divine might as they slashed down with a loud bang. Only one of the 7-colored giant swords attacked the fourth elder. The other 6 giant swords slashed at the 3 elite experts. Ji Tianqing's goal was very clear. He would deal with the remaining 3 experts first, and then deal with the fourth elder. Not only did the 3 experts see through it, the fourth elder also saw it clearly. However, he was powerless to stop it. Facing the 7-colored giant sword that was slashing down on his head, he could only use his divine ability to block it with all his might. Boom! 2 gigantic blood-red palms that seemed capable of capturing the heavens, and the moon clamped down on the 7-colored sword with a loud bang. Both sides were in a deadlock for an instant before they collapsed at the same time, and they exploded into a myriad of fragments of divine light. On the other side, 6 7-colored giant swords, carrying the divine might of 27 laws, engulfed the figures of the 3 experts. Pung pung pung! An earth-shattering explosion erupted, shaking the heavens. A destructive shockwave wrapped in countless fragments of divine light spread out in all directions. It was like a heaven-shaking, earth-shattering seven-colored torrent that swept across a radius of 8,000 miles. After the divine light dissipated, the three experts disappeared without a trace. Their divine bodies were destroyed by the giant swords and turned into ashes. The Godhead was also destroyed, and its fragments fell into the sea. So far, the 8 elite disciples brought by the fourth elder had all died under Ji Tianqing's sword. After the storm passed, the fourth elder glared at Ji Tianqing with bloodshot eyes, so furious that he was about to explode. "Little bastard! You actually killed the 8 disciples that I was most proud of. I swear that I will not coexist with you. Are you determined to become enemies with my sect?" The two had exchanged several thousand blows, and the fourth elder had a sufficient understanding of Ji Tianqing's strength and methods. He was well aware that Ji Tianqing's strength was inferior to his. However, Ji Tianqing had grasped more divine Tao laws and cultivated more powerful divine abilities. The two's true strength was on par, and it was hard to say who would emerge victorious. If there was still room for negotiation, the fourth elder didn't want to fight to the death with the other party. That would definitely result in both sides suffering great losses. Ji Tianqing could naturally see that the fourth elder was somewhat lacking in confidence. He said with an indifferent expression, "It's not that I want to become enemies with the Blood Sword sect, but that the Blood Sword sect is being overbearing and seeking death. I'll give you a chance to live. Send a message to the Blood Sword sect and tell them to give up on the Profound Light Cave and stop their persecution of the Qi family." Before Ji Tianqing could finish, the fourth elder's expression changed, and his eyes spat out thick flames of anger. "Shut up! Who do you think you are? How dare you threaten our sect? In my sect's eyes, you're nothing but an ant." Ji Tianqing looked at him expressionlessly and said with a cold voice, "Since that's the case, there's nothing to talk about. I gave you a chance to say your last words, but unfortunately, you've already used it." As his voice fell, Ji Tianqing's 100-meter-tall body blossomed with a dazzling golden light that was as bright as the sun, bursting forth with unparalleled divine might. He held the 80-meter-long sword of burial of heaven with both hands and brazenly stabbed out with the god-slaying sword. Whoosh! The golden sword light tore through the sky and instantly arrived in front of the fourth elder. The fourth elder immediately raised his palms and urged the power of 8 kinds of laws to shoot out 2 dazzling balls of 7-colored divine light. The majestic power of the divine Tao laws was condensed into 2 balls of light that were 10,000 meters wide. When the power was condensed to the extreme, it was 10 times harder than any divine metal. Inside the balls of light, layers of 7-colored divine light surged like waves, creating a spectacular sight. Boom! Crack! The 2 balls of light struck the giant golden sword with a loud bang that shook the heavens and the earth. Suddenly, the balls of light exploded, and the giant golden sword was also shattered. The fourth elder used his full strength to block Ji Tianqing's assassination. However, Ji Tianqing was not affected at all. After the sword of burial of heaven was forced back 10 miles, it changed its move and slashed down again. Sword of burial of heaven. The giant sword became as black as ink and burst out with a mysterious black light. It carried with it an icy aura of death as it slashed toward the fourth elder's head. The fourth elder was shocked and hurriedly took out a blood-colored giant sword to block above his head. Clang! Amidst the earth-shattering noise, the sword of burial of heaven struck the blood-colored giant sword. Divine light burst out, and energy overflowed, creating huge waves on the surface of the sea. The fourth elder was not injured. He was only forced back 100 miles. Swoosh! At this moment, Ji Tianqing teleported again and appeared beside the fourth elder. He held the sword with both hands and slashed down again with full strength. Heavenly Dragon Slash. The 1,000-meter-long crescent-shaped sword light carried with it 5-colored divine light and lightning flames as it charged toward the fourth elder. The fourth elder was overwhelmed and had no time to dodge. He could only hold the blood-colored giant sword and face the attack with all his might. Clang! Another crisp sound of metal exploding rang out, tearing the sky apart. The fourth elder was sent flying again. His hands trembled uncontrollably, and the web between his thumb and forefinger cracked open, blood flowing out. The blood-colored giant sword trembled violently and let out a sorrowful cry. Violent five-colored lightning and flames enveloped his body, instantly burning his white hair and robe. Black smoke came out of his body and he screamed in pain. Ji Tianqing was not going to let him go. He swung his sword with all his might. He used the dragon elephant divine fist with his left hand and the sword of Tongtian with his right. The fourth elder was in an even more dangerous situation. If he was not careful, he would die on the spot. End of chapter. Chapter 2861. Bam! Although the fourth elder had neutralized the dragon elephant divine fist, he couldn't block the sword of heaven. With a muffled sound, he was stabbed by the sword of heaven and flew back while vomiting blood. After exchanging thousands of blows with Ji Tianqing, he couldn't hold on any longer and was finally injured. Not only were his internal organs damaged, but the bronze mask on his face was also blown off and fell into the sea. His old face was as pale as a sheet of paper. Blood kept flowing out of his nose and mouth, and his eyes were dim. Even his aura had weakened a lot. On the other hand, Ji Tianqing's aura was even stronger and more domineering. He was like the sun hanging high in the sky, swallowing the sky and the sea. He held the sword with both hands and attacked fiercely. Broken moon, shattering sun, rising sword. All kinds of sword Dao techniques were used, and sword radiances covered the sky. The sharp sword qi sealed off the area within a radius of 3,000 miles and suppressed the fourth elder. He was forced to retreat again and again. He was exhausted from defending against Ji Tianqing's fierce attacks and appeared to be flustered. As time passed, more and more wounds appeared on the fourth elder's body, and his injuries became more and more serious. Finally, when he was forced to retreat 300 miles and Ji Tianqing had used 800 sword techniques, the 100,000 strands of sword qi that filled the heavens and the earth suddenly condensed into a formation that emitted dazzling divine light. Swoosh! A mysterious sword formation with a radius of 1,000 miles suddenly appeared between the sea and the sky. Ji Tianqing and the fourth elder were both in this sword array. However, under the power of the sword array, the two of them were in completely different situations. Ji Tianqing was like a fish in water and a tiger with wings. Not only did he have an endless supply of divine power, but his aura also increased tenfold. On the other hand, the fourth elder was not only suppressed by the power of the sword array, but his strength was also greatly weakened. Even his movements became sluggish and his divine power couldn't be used smoothly. The balance between the two sides was broken. Ji Tianqing's battle intent and strength far exceeded the fourth elder's. It was an overwhelming advantage. Whoosh! Whoosh! Thousands of five-colored sword lights rained down like a rain of arrows, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. The fourth elder's figure was instantly submerged. He roared like a madman as he waved his blood-red sword madly to block the sword light that filled the sky. A series of muffled noises rang out as countless sword lights were shattered, exploding into dense multicolored fragments. Even though he had successfully defeated over 1,000 sword lights. However, after the sword light dissipated, there were more than a dozen wounds on his body. They were so deep that his bones could be seen, and blood was flowing from them. Before he could even catch his breath, thousands of sword lights attacked him from all directions, crazily trying to strangle him. The fourth elder's figure was submerged once again. He tried his best to resist and used all of his divine abilities, but he finally managed to block the attack of the sword light. But he also paid a heavy price for it. More than 30 wounds were added to his body, each about a foot long and deep into his bones. There was not a single piece of intact flesh on his chest, back, or limbs. His clothes and white hair were torn to shreds, and he was completely covered in blood. The most frightening thing was that he didn't even have a chance to catch his breath before the endless sword light attacked him again. Being in the sword formation, he would be attacked by tens of thousands of swords at any moment, and there would be no end to this. Bastard! You despicable be***starred. Do you only know how to use such schemes and tricks? Why don't you dare to fight me head-on? In his fury, the fourth elder roared at the top of his lungs. He was surrounded by endless sword lights, and he couldn't even see Ji Tianqing's shadow before he was torn to shreds, leaving behind only a skeleton. In the past, he had thought that his divine lord body had been tempered thousands of times. After all, swords, spears, swords and halberds, divine lightning, and heavenly fire could not hurt him at all. But now a mere sword formation had sliced off his flesh. He estimated that in at most an hour, his skeleton would be shredded to pieces. At that time he would only be left with a godhood. Even if he had cultivated hard for 10,000 years and painstakingly accumulated 33 laws, he would die on the spot. If he had died at the hands of a high-level divine lord or a well-known expert, it would have been a consolation. But he had lost to a third-rate family's consecrator. If this matter were to spread, it would definitely be a great humiliation. Thinking of this, the fourth elder couldn't hold back his anger and grievance, and immediately roared. Whoosh! There was a flash of light. The sword lights that had surrounded the fourth elder scattered in all directions. When his vision cleared up, he saw that Ji Tianqing was looking at him with an indifferent expression not far away. Little bastard! If you have the guts, remove the formation and fight me to the death. The fourth elder cursed as he secretly circulated his energy to treat his injuries. Ji Tianqing saw through his actions, but he didn't bother to stop him. He said indifferently, I cultivate the sword Dao, and not only am I proficient in sword techniques, but also sword formations. This is a simple heaven-vanquishing sword formation that I created myself. You'll be a good test of its power. The fourth elder was so angry that his body trembled. He roared in a hoarse voice, You bastard! The Blood Sword sect will never let you go. Soon you will be wanted by the Blood Sword sect, and you are destined to be reduced to ashes. Ji Tianqing couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. He continued to control the sword formation, releasing tens of thousands of sword lights to attack the fourth elder. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Bang 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 bang. The sword lights continued to crisscross, and muffled sounds could be heard. Amidst the chaos, there were also occasional screams. An hour passed unknowingly. After the sword lights dissipated, the fourth elder also disappeared. There was no doubt. After an hour of suppression and killing, he had long been reduced to ashes. Not only did his flesh dissipate, but his bones also turned to dust. Fortunately, he had the blood-colored giant sword and a dozen monarch-grade divine artifacts to hold on for so long. If not for those divine artifacts blocking the sword lights, he would have been killed long ago. Whoosh! A diamond-shaped godhead flashing with 5 colored lights silently flew across the sky toward the corner of the sword formation. Although the fourth elder's divine body was destroyed, his godhead was still intact. However, his godhead still existed and he didn't die. As long as the godhead could escape Ji Tianqing's pursuit, he still had a chance to recover. Boom! With a muffled sound, the godhead dragged a long 5-colored flame tail as it slammed into the edge of the heaven-vanquishing sword formation. The multicolored light shield trembled violently from the impact and flashed with divine light. However, the divine light barrier didn't shatter and was still intact. On the other hand, the fourth elder's godhead was violently shaken, and he felt a little dizzy. He quickly regained his senses and accelerated toward the divine light barrier. However, this time Ji Tianqing was already prepared. Draconic Elephant Divine Fist. Ji Tianqing waved his left hand, and a mountain-sized draconic elephant image slammed into the fourth elder's godhead. Boom! The godhead was sent flying, and several cracks appeared on its surface, sword piercing the 9 heavens. Ji Tianqing teleported and chased after the fourth elder, swinging his sword. Crack! With a crisp cracking sound, the fourth elder's godhead was shattered by the burial of heaven, and 5-colored light filled the sky. The 14 fragments of the godhead were also wrapped in energy and scattered in all directions. The fourth elder of the Blood Sword sect, an intermediate divine lord, had been killed by Ji Tianqing. Chapter 2862. The battle was over. Ji Tianqing also took the fourth elder's 14 quintessence fragments. He waved his hand, dispelled the heaven-eradicating sword formation, and flew back to Profound Light Island. On the way, He spread his divine sense to search for the quintessence fragments of the Blood Sword sect's elite disciples. When he returned to Profound Light Island, he searched for Lu Jiucheng's quintessence fragments. An hour later, when he returned to Profound Light Island, he found many more quintessence fragments of the black-clothed experts in the ruins. Although these black-clothed experts were all disciples of the Lu family, and a small number of Blood Sword sect disciples, these people were all between the 3rd and 6th level of the celestial god realm. Not only did their quintessence fragments contain very little divine power, but they also had very few divine Tao laws. Even so, Ji Tianqing didn't mind. No matter how small a mosquito's leg was, it was still meat. Whoosh! In a flash, Ji Tianqing returned to the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes Tower and appeared on the demon god altar. At this time, he had stored more than 600 quintessence fragments in his spatial ring. Jiku was still sitting cross-legged in the Origin Divine Formation, his divine sense connected to the entire tower as he guarded Profound Light Cave. Ji Tianqing walked to her side and used his divine sense to wake her up. Cuckoo, the Blood Sword sect and Lu family's people have been dealt with. You can rest now. Jiku seemed relieved of a great burden as he slowly withdrew his energy and opened his eyes. She looked a little tired and her eyes were a little dim. Although she had a smile on her face, she couldn't hide the fatigue in her mind. After all, this was the first time she had used the tower to fight. With her strength, it was still a little difficult for her to use this king-grade tower. It was extremely taxing on her mind. Big Brother Tianqing, has the crisis been resolved? That Divine Lord expert of the Blood Sword sect was also killed by you? Jiku looked at Ji Tianqing expectantly. Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a smile, "Yes, I killed them all." "That's great." Jiku was suddenly filled with surprise and excitement. "The way I see it, that Blood Sword sect elder is at least a 4th-level Divine Lord. You haven't broken through to the Divine Lord realm, and you're able to kill him. This is simply a miracle." Ji Tianqing held her hands and said with a sincere tone, "This is all thanks to your help. You guarded the Profound Light Cave and blocked them outside, buying me 3 days of time. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have been a match for the Blood Sword sect's elder. Alright, you've been working so hard for so long. You must be mentally exhausted. Go and rest." "Alright." Jiku nodded and said, "Then I'll go back to the space-time distortion. I'll leave the Divine Pagoda to you." After saying this, she passed through the Origin Divine Formation and entered the distorted space-time to meditate. Ji Tianqing took over the control of the Divine Pagoda and sent the Qi clan members to the entrance of the mine. Then he kept the Divine Pagoda. Shua! Light and shadow flashed. The 3,000 feet tall Divine Pagoda rapidly shrunk and drilled into Ji Tianqing's body, leaving the mark of a small black pagoda on his left arm. Without the protection of the Divine Pagoda, the Profound Light Cave was exposed to the night. Several hundred Qi clan guards, craftsmen, and miners stood in the ruins, looking around in confusion. Cries of alarm and discussion came from the crowd. "It's been 3 days. Is it finally over? Where are the Blood Sword sect and the Lu clan? The Divine Pagoda is also gone. Are we all safe? Those bastards of the Blood Sword sect and the Lu clan must have been driven away by the Reverend. This is too inconceivable. The Reverend actually turned the tide and resolved the crisis on his own. The Blood Sword sect and the Lu clan had disappeared, and the Divine Pagoda had also been put away. This made the Qi clan members realize that the crisis had been resolved. The Profound Light Cave was safe. Everyone's spirits were lifted and their emotions were stirred. At this moment, Ji Tianqing descended from the sky and arrived above them. Qi Tianqing, and the Qi clan members bowed when they saw him arrive. "Thank you, Reverend, for saving us. The Reverend is mighty." Everyone shouted in unison, and the sound waves caused the ground to tremble. Ji Tianqing raised his hands and gestured for everyone to be quiet. "Everyone, the invaders of the Blood Sword sect and the Lu clan have all been killed by me. Not a single one is left alive. The Profound Light Cave is now safe. Everyone, clean up the ruins and rebuild the workshops and residences as soon as possible. The reconstruction work will be overseen by the 2 reverends." Qi Tianqing and Qi Tianqing hurriedly bowed and said yes. Then the 2 gathered the captains of the guards, craftsmen, and miners and assigned them tasks. Not long after, Hundreds of people began to perform their duties and threw themselves into the reconstruction work. A portion of them entered the mines and cleaned up the tunnels and tunnels. More people stayed on the surface to clean up the ruins near the entrance, rebuild the workshops, and repair the collapsed houses. All the work was carried out in an orderly manner. Ji Tianqing entered the 9th mine and devoured the divine crystal vein. The amount of divine crystals in that lode had exceeded his expectations. Even though he had been devouring for 3 days and 3 nights, the power of the mine had not decreased. Even though his strength had been strengthened 36 times. He would continue to strengthen until he reached the limit of the heavenly God realm and then break through to the divine sovereign realm. In that case, his strength would be even more powerful, and his future achievements would be even more terrifying. Time passed silently. Unknowingly, it was the wee hours of the morning. Ji Tianqing's strength had increased to 40 times that of a peak heavenly god. At this moment, a dazzling 5-colored stream of light sped over from the southern night sky, heading straight for the profound light island. When the stream of light got closer, it could be seen clearly. There were hundreds of figures in the stream of light that was thousands of feet long. The leader was Qi Tianlong, who wore golden armor and had a divine sword at his waist. The hundreds of guards behind him were also the elites of the Qi clan. These guards were all in the 3rd to 5th level of the heavenly god realm. They wore armor and carried blades, and they were filled with killing intent. Everyone streaked across the night sky at their fastest speed and landed on the profound light island. As soon as he stepped on the profound light island, Qi Tianlong slowed down. Even though he was travel-worn and exhausted, he did not dare to let his guard down. He held the divine sword in his hand and carefully rushed to the profound light cave. The hundreds of Qi clan guards were also on high alert, as if they were facing a great enemy. Obviously, Qi Tianlong had just rushed back to Qingshan City from Tianfeng City. As soon as he returned to the Qi clan, he learned that something had happened to the profound light cave. He did not have time to rest. He hurriedly led the hundreds of elite guards and rushed to the profound light cave at his fastest speed. On the way, he kept praying that the profound light cave had not fallen and that he could make it in time. Now that he had finally landed on the profound light island, his heart was in his throat. That kind of feeling was like a prisoner waiting to be sentenced. Whether he was dead or alive would be revealed soon. Swoosh! Qi Tianlong saw that the island was very quiet, so he sped up and flew across the night sky, arriving above the entrance of the profound light cave. When he heard the noise and saw the bustling scene, he was stunned on the spot. Chapter 2863. Before arriving at the profound light cave, Qi Tianlong had many guesses. Perhaps a sea of enemies had surrounded the profound light cave so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. The Qi family was forced to hide in the profound light cave, refusing to surrender and fighting to the death. Or countless strong enemies were attacking the profound light cave. The Qi family was fighting a bloody battle and suffered heavy casualties. Even more tragic was that the strong enemies had already entered the profound light cave and were slaughtering the Qi family. Then he led a large number of elite guards to the profound light cave in time and turned the tide through a fierce battle. Or the enemy had occupied the profound light cave. In order to preserve their strength, the Qi family was captured by the strong enemies and was suffering humiliation and pain. All in all, Qi Tianlong had imagined several outcomes. But he didn't expect the scene in front of him to be like this. Hundreds of guards, craftsmen, and miners were busy cleaning up the ruins and rebuilding the houses and workshops. Everyone had put away their weapons, and there weren't even any guards patrolling around. Qi Tianlong knew at a glance that they were all from the Qi family. And he could also see that the profound light cave had just gone through a fierce battle. After all, the monarch-level divine formation he had personally set up was destroyed. The mountains around the mine had also collapsed, and the ground was full of cracks. The workshops and buildings outside the mine had also been reduced to rubble. Such a tragic scene was enough to prove how fierce the previous battle was. However, Qi Tianlong was very confused. Since the profound light cave had gone through such a fierce battle, how could the Qi family be safe and sound? How could they all survive and not be killed by the strong enemies? What the hell is going on? Qi Tianlong frowned and couldn't figure it out. Even the hundreds of guards he brought with him had relaxed their vigilance and looked at each other. Before they came, they were all in a tragic mood and were ready to sacrifice themselves. They didn't expect that the battle had already passed. This time, Qi Tianlong's eyes swept through the crowd and found the Grand Deacon Qi Tianqing. Swoosh! Qi Tianlong quickly flew to Qi Tianqing and asked, "Big brother, what happened just now? Are you all okay?" Hearing the patriarch's voice, Qi Tianqing was full of excitement and said with tears in his eyes, "Patriarch, you're finally back. That's great." Qi Tianqing's loud voice startled the guards and craftsmen around. Suddenly, hundreds of people turned to look at Qi Tianlong. Seeing the patriarch appear, everyone's spirits were lifted, and they hurriedly bowed to pay their respects. In just a short while, the news spread among the crowd. Everyone in the Qi clan saw that not only had the clan leader arrived, but he had also brought along a large group of guards. Thus everyone was truly at ease. Qi Tianqing also flew to the Grand Deacon's side and greeted Qi Tianlong. When the three brothers gathered together, the two deacons were filled with emotion. Qi Tianlong was confused and couldn't wait to ask, "Big brother, second brother, what's going on? Am I late?" Qi Tianqing was stunned for a moment. Then he forced a smile and said, "Patriarch, you're not late. Of course it wasn't too early. Actually, the matter had already passed. Even if you didn't come back, the profound light cave wouldn't have fallen." The second deacon hurriedly waved his hand and persuaded, "Big brother, don't say that." Although the patriarch had returned late, the crisis of the profound light cave had been resolved. But now that the patriarch has appeared, everyone can be at ease and focus on rebuilding the profound light cave. Qi Tianlong frowned and said with a wry smile, "You two mean that it's useless for me to come back? What the hell is going on? Who invaded the profound light cave? How many people did they bring? How many experts did they bring? Who resolved the crisis?" Qi Tianqing and Qi Tianqing looked at each other, and then they began to tell the whole story. A quarter of an hour later, Qi Tianlong learned of the matter and breathed a sigh of relief. Phew, it was indeed exalted Tianqing who turned the tide. This king really didn't misjudge him. With his appearance, the profound light cave is safe. To be able to get the help of exalted Tianqing is really the blessing of the Qi clan. Qi Tianlong's mood also became surging, and he was filled with endless emotions. He had never thought that the Bloodsword sect and the Lu clan would be so crazy and daring. They actually sent a large number of experts to openly besiege the profound light cave and blatantly rob it. This time, fortunately, Qi Tianqing acted in time and killed the invaders, resolving the crisis. Qi Tianlong didn't dare to imagine what the consequences would have been if Qi Tianqing hadn't been there. Thinking of this, Qi Tianlong felt a lingering fear. His hatred for the Lu clan and the Bloodsword sect had reached the peak. After a while he calmed down and cupped his hands to the two deacons, saying, "Big brother, second brother, I really have to thank you this time. If you hadn't guarded the profound light cave and helped exalted Tianqing resolve the crisis, the consequences would have been unimaginable. After the reconstruction is completed, I will definitely reward you." After receiving Qi Tianlong's reward, Qi Tianqing and Qi Tianqing couldn't feel happy. On the contrary, the two looked at each other and smiled awkwardly. After dawdling for a while, Qi Tianqing explained with a smile, "Patriarch, there's no need for a reward. We don't deserve it." To tell you the truth, after the experts of the Bloodsword sect and the Lu clan destroyed the defensive array, we were doomed. At the critical moment, it was exalted Tianqing who descended from the sky to save us and stop the invaders. During these 3 days we hid in the Divine Tower to recuperate and heal. Reverend Tianqing single-handedly resolved the crisis and killed all the powerful enemies. What? Qi Tianlong suddenly showed a look of horror, shocked and stunned. Didn't you just say that the leader was that bastard Lu Jiuchong and the elder of the Bloodsword sect? Those two were both Divine Lord powerhouses. How could exalted Tianqing alone kill them? Even if he heard it with his own ears, Qi Tianlong still couldn't believe it. Qi Tianqing and Qi Tianqing shook their heads at the same time, saying, "It's true, but we don't know the details. Exalted Tianqing is in the mine. You should ask him yourself." Without another word, Qi Tianlong turned and flew into the entrance of the mine to look for Ji Tianqing. After entering the mine, Qi Tianlong looked around and could still see a lot of debris, as well as traces of explosions and collapses. However, 90% of the tunnels and debris had been cleared, so the mine was not messy. Qi Tianlong asked a guard captain and learned that Ji Tianqing was in mine number 9. Therefore, he hurried to mine number 9. The mine was completely silent. Only Ji Tianqing was sitting on top of the mine, circulating his qi and cultivating. He had ordered that no one was to disturb him. However, Qi Tianlong was the patriarch. If he wanted to enter mine number 9, no one dared to stop him. As a result, when Qi Tianlong entered the mine and found Ji Tianqing was still devouring the energy of the vein. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.